for joining us tonight. Of course, we have our hybrid meetings and it's like maybe our third one. We're still got a few kinks, but we're doing okay. And I am so happy to be here. I'm back in the place where I started 5 years ago. Right, Mary? It's nice to be back in the building where we started for our last one. And we do have quorum today. So we'll officially put the meeting to order at 6:01. Would anybody like to make a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve the agenda.
Lynn, great, second? Second. Great. Is Anita on there too? I'm just wanting to make sure. Anita you just emailed about 5 moments. Okay, thank you. Something come on. Okay, great. Okay. We have a second. Then we'll move on.
Good evening, folks. Allie Rhodes, Director of Parks and Recreation. Just going to share with you a few highlights for your upcoming meetings, both as CRAB members, some city council topics, and then things happening in the community. I want to highlight just last week, City Council did talk about the library reallocation. We'll give you an update in your next packet, but the very brief summary is they said $10 million is a very small percentage of the city's overarching over 400, nearly $500,000 budget. We're going to talk about it all with the 2024 budget because that's how we can be thoughtful and strategic. So that's the Cliff Notes version. We'll give you a much more thoughtful summary with your April packet. This Thursday, City Council is talking about downtown streets as public spaces. This was a commitment that city staff made following the reopening of the West End closure when the West End of Pearl Street had been closed from 6th or 9th to 11th Street. There had been an interest to explore how we could thoughtfully use street spaces. And a multidisciplinary team of city staff are going to be presenting on that. We'll also trickle that down to you all because some of it includes recommendations for some of the street spaces that are adjacent to the civic area on 13th Street between Arapahoe and Canyon. Coming up at your April meeting, I want to call out that just 2 weeks from today, we'll be doing a study session. And we're doing this so that we can have a lot of time to give you foundational information and begin to gather your input on the 2024 operating and capital budgets. Right now, we have that outlined. It says on here, it's 60 minutes, and that's a typo. Your appointment is held for 3 hours, and we anticipate that being 3 hours. Our presentation will be smaller portions of it with lots of time for discussion and questions. At your April business meeting, you'll get your first look at the historic places plan that you all have been talking about for quite a while now. That has been a COVID impacted plan that has taken, it's taken a while, but under incredible leadership by our planner, Tina Briggs here. You'll be seeing that to discuss and then take action in May. We'll continue again, as we've done in the past several years. For the next 3 months, you're going to be talking about our budget every single month on this runway to your June approval and recommendation of both the capital and operating budgets. I did also want to call out that on April 13th, City Council is having a 3-hour study session devoted to homelessness topics. They'll be talking about family homelessness in the city of Boulder. They'll be talking about Boulder County's coordinated homelessness strategy. And then the team that we actively participate in, the Safe Advantage Public Spaces team, will also be sharing information on results of our pilot projects and checking in. Right now, that is very much geared as an informed study session with City Council, although right now we are soliciting questions from council if there are things they want to make sure that we address. We will share all of those materials with you all. And similarly, if you have questions or would like to discuss it, of course, we can look at providing that opportunity with our new chair and vice chair, because at your next meeting, you'll also be selecting your next board and welcoming 2 new members. If you were not watching Thursday night, we do have 2 new members, Anna Seeger and Andrew will be joining our board as the April meeting. So I know later tonight, you all will be talking about how you want to make sure to welcome them. I think those are the highlights. As far as community events, I do want to call out that Saturday, April 29th will be our tree giveaway at McGuckins in honor of Arbor Day. This is the first time we've done this since the pandemic, and we're thrilled to be giving away trees. It's a really fun event. I recommend you attend if you are interested. And if you don't need any trees, I'm sure you can reach out to the Play Foundation and volunteer. What's going on?
It's just so interesting to me that 5 years ago, we gave out trees. It's been 5 years since we've given out trees.
We did it in 2019. So I think it's been
Four.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yep. We're pretty excited.
I'm excited for you too. That's great. Okay. Public participation. Now, Rosa, since there's nobody, do I need to read the whole script?
I don't think so.
I'm thinking so too.
We don't have any public participation tonight, not before 4:30, and I just checked the mailbox.
Fantastic. So we have no public participation, so we'll go ahead and skip that. And we'll move on to the consent agenda. Would anybody like to make a motion to approve the minutes from February 27th, 2023?
Should.
Okay, do I have a second? Everybody second, perfect. That's it. And then the next item we'll go to would be the updates from the director, Ally Rhodes.
Thanks, folks. As always, we have, and I think, I'm hoping maybe with some of our great handbook changes, we'll call this something that helps folks understand, but the whole, minus the minutes, the consent agenda includes updates from my office, updates from our planning team and our operations folks. These are informations, we don't need any input from the board or anticipate any conversation, but they're information we know helps you be better board members, community members, and if you have questions, I've got, as always, a bunch of really smart people here to answer them.
Any questions, Chuck? Usually, I don't want to. Well, no, I'm so used to being on that side that I know the delay. Okay, oh, good, okay, fantastic. So do you want to talk about, you're good, you don't want to talk about anything about the CRD?
There is a lot of
I know.
exciting updates, Mary. I hope you saw on pages 10 and 11 for you some snapshots from Beehive. I know you've been really excited about the asset management program, and we might have to send you some updates over the next 6 months as Mark and his team and our park ops teams really hit the ground running again. We have a lot of new capacity in this area that is really exciting. So I might just send you some emails for fun.
All right, well, then we'll move on to action items, and there's none. And then we'll go to matters for discussion. I know this is kind of a hefty one, so who on your team do you want to pass it to, Ally?
The first one of the only matter from discussion is giving you the overview of our 2024 budget strategy and the fee policy. So what Jackson, our business services manager, and Stacy Hoffman, a member of our business services team, they're going to give you an overview of the next 3 months. I just mentioned very briefly in the future BART items that it's going to be a lot of budget conversation. Jackson might make some cheeky jokes about how boring some people think the budget are, but as I tell the team all the time, this is one of the most exciting things that we do. You've heard it said budgets are moral documents, and this is true. Where our money is spent is how we align with community and values, and how we evidence really just incredible stewardship of this community's value for parks and recreation space. So tonight they're here to present the roadmap, and really the most important ask of you tonight, board members, is how we can make sure to be good guides along that trail with you. And so if there is information that would be helpful, if there are steps that would be helpful, I know Sunny, you will be traveling for that study session. You and I will meet one-on-one to make sure, and we'll also, it's something to think about as we get our it's a little unfair that new board members join right as we're diving into budget, because there's such a learning curve, but we're all here to help. So with that, I'll turn it over to Jackson and Stacy.
All right.
Lots of noises here. Rosa, can you enable screen sharing? So while we're getting this pulled up, I will say you have a very key median, the sources and uses chart for 2023. Chuck, this is as attachment A in the packet, so you also have a copy in front of you. We will probably reference this a handful of times as we're going through the meeting. But really, please ask questions. As Ali mentioned, we are going to be here for the next 3 months. With any budget topic, we try to build on the previous months. So today is really about giving you a background as far as where we're at, how 2022 finished, and setting us up for 2023 conversation. Or I'm sorry, 2024 or 2023.
2024, recapping 2022, I'd like to jump around.
As Ali mentioned, budget process is a very transparent process where we are able to talk about what is going on with the financial of the department. But it really does extend over a very long period of time, just given the time it takes our staff to build the budget, And then the various internal tools for looking at the budget across different departments across the city, and then ultimately the city council's approval. So we do have a presentation for you. Thank you for the patience as we got it pulled up. And I'm going to turn it over to Stacy to get us started.
Yeah, so good evening, everyone. First of all, we just really want to thank the PRAB for your time and your support throughout the 2024 budget development process. The PRAB does have formal approval for capital expenditures from the Permanent Parks and Recreation Fund, but you also really play a really important advisory role in helping develop the annual operating budget, as Ally had referenced. Tonight, our focus of discussion is going to be on our BPR's funding sources, and we will be referencing that sheet that was handed out. The department does benefit from diverse funding streams, including dedicated taxes from sales and property, user fees, general fund support, and other fund support. So really, as we go through this process, it's important for the PRAB to understand the various funding sources we have and how that does impact our budget development. We are going to be looking at a high-level financial update for 2022. We'll be looking at goals and a timeline for the 2024 budget development. And we do have some questions for the PRAB this evening. It's kind of a long presentation. We do have about an hour, so we did schedule some time to take some breaks, allow for questions and comments. And do want to just kind of throw out there that, you know, Parks and Recreation is definitely the department of fun. I think we all know that, but we are certainly the department of acronyms and abbreviations. And sometimes I think this is my second language. So if I do start to speak in acronyms or abbreviations, you know, please just pause, ask questions and such. All right, this next slide provides our timeline. So really, when looking at this timeline, PRAB's involvement is outlined at the top part with staff responsibilities on the bottom. So as has been mentioned, we will have several touches with the PRAB over the next several months relating to the 2024 budget development, and to include the upcoming study session on April 3rd. So you'll see that's a kind of a balloon after March. At your April meeting, we will be looking at a formalization of a fee policy. Moving into May, we will be doing a 2024 budget review with the PRAB. We will be having a second touch on the CIP and looking at that recommended fee policy. And then in June, we will be doing a 2024 budget review, and then you will have the opportunity to hopefully approve the Permanent Parks and Recreation CIP. Just moving back to that study session, we will be looking at the development of a fee policy, which Jackson is going to go over a little bit. And then we will also be looking at our CIS, or our capital investment strategy for the CIP for 2024, and then also from 25 through 2029. And then on the bottom in green is just the staff work that will be done over the next few months. All right, so looking at our next slide, we're going to jump into our funding sources here. And if you look at the chart that we handed out, the Permanent Parks and Recreation Fund is in the last column. This is a capital project fund, and it is funded by property and development excise taxes. This is the one that you're going to hear several times throughout the presentation that you do have approval for. And really what BPR uses this fund for is for CIP, acquiring land, renovating or improving existing parks and recreation facilities. This fund is a dedicated fund, and it is not used for daily operations or routine maintenance. Kind of really like the graph on the right-hand side, and it, you know, kind of outlines for every property tax dollar collected in Boulder, the city of Boulder receives 14 cents. And out of that 14 cents, you'll see where Parks and Recreation receives 1 cent to support this fund. So when we annualize that out, we're looking at about $3.8 million in funding that's available for the department. The next fund to review is the 0.25 cent sales tax fund, or that is a special revenue fund. And this fund is supported by voter approved sales tax funds. It is one of our more flexible funds for the department. It can be used to fund daily operations, do maintenance and CIP. So you will see as we review the uses that this fund's expenditures do go up and down because it is so flexible in supporting the department in different needs. And then again, looking at that graph, for every retail tax dollar collected in Boulder, the city does receive 44 cents. And there is 3 cents earmarked for Parks and Recreation that help support this fund. The fund will fluctuate, obviously down a little bit in the pandemic, but projections are back up. We do work with CU economists on the projections for the fund, and those are set by finance. And then we basically build their budget about the revenues that we're going to receive. The next fund is on your chart, and that is second to the last. If you're looking at the sources and uses chart, and this is the Recreation Activity Fund, or commonly referred to as the RAF. This is a special revenue quasi-enterprise fund, and it's funded by user fees and general fund subsidy. The general fund subsidy is used for community benefit programming, and we're going to take a little deeper dive at that in just a moment. But uses for the department, we use this to operate recreation, reservoir and golf course services and programs. During budget development, we will spend a lot of time developing this budget. The Recreation Activity Fund is about 1/3 of our total budget, and we really need to make sure, with it being a special revenue quasi-enterprise fund, that it operates more like a business. So with revenue and expenses in ratio and in balance. So a lot of time spent in budget development with RAF. The general fund is our governmental fund. It is supported by fees, sales, property, and other taxes. And the general fund is managed by finance and is allocated citywide to several different departments. For our department, the main uses are to support our forestry, our urban parks and park operations. So you can see that beautiful picture. The tulips, which will be here soon on Brill Street, which is such a beautiful time of year. And then also department administration. The last fund is the lottery fund. This is a special revenue fund in which the department does receive state conservation trust fund monies. And this fund is pretty restricted, is really dedicated to parks, recreation, and open space site maintenance and capital improvements. So it's more of a capital improvement fund, not used to support anything operating. Okay. Any questions on any of the funds at all? I know that was a lot of information. What's great about this chart, which I think we all love, is on the top part, we will see this is for 2023. You'll have your summary of funds on the top. You can see some current revenue. And then the summary of uses, or how these funds support our expenses, is kind of on the bottom. This does provide a lot of detail, and then some notes want to dive down more specifics as we go through the budget development process.
So it looks like you have a question.
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
Yeah, for the lottery fund, does it go up and down with lottery revenues, or what governs or limits the $428,000 we're getting this year?
So lottery fund is received from the state, and it's based on a per capita formula. So the default amount that we receive to the city is really attributed to how often people are playing the lottery and how much money is in the lottery fund. Within that, the city gets about $1.3 million a year annually. And that's split between the 3 departments. We get about 40% of that, as does open space, and then green base gets the remainder. So it has increased slightly over the last few years. This is a fund that we tend to, or central finance tends to budget on the conservative side, just because the lottery planes are so, they fluctuate so much year over year. But if there is additional revenue that comes in, that's allocated through the adjustment to base process. And then outside of this, the statewide lottery fund also supports GOCO grants. And this department has received many GOCO grants for a variety of projects. So we do get supplemental funding through GOCO grants that aren't deposited into this fund, but are used for other capital projects.
And Chuck, we do plan, the allocation baseline is about 428,000 a year. And then it will fluctuate as Justin stated.
Okay, thank you. Very clear.
Can I go for it?
Yeah.
Okay, so the general fund. Seems like I read this chart as saying that that's something we manage, but you're saying that it's managed by the city's finance department and then we get a distribution from that.
Correct.
Okay.
The citywide general fund is about 160 million. Don't quote me on that, but ballpark close. General fund is the most flexible, so it's funded by property tax and sales tax, admission tax. It pays for police, fire, city manager's office, city attorney's office. The $6 million is our portion of the general fund budget that we've received.
And then we too manage that funding through the department. We have management over that,
Right.
but we.
But we don't, as a department, manage the general fund. That's the city of Boulder's general fund that we get, and then we manage our.
Yes.
Thank you.
How are the decisions made when a new company, say, is coming in like Google or Yahoo? And they obviously are gonna have employees who are gonna need our infrastructure, police, schools, roads, parks and rec. How do we make sure that they pay their fair share?
Sure. So I'm going to zoom out a little from the company specific. New development pays a development excise tax, DET funding. DET funding is separate from these other sources. And it's based on a per square footage. What is the overall impact to the city? So there's a variety of different departments that receive DET funding. And then we use that on an occasional basis to pay for the increase population and services that we are providing for. So an example would be the Scott Carpenter Pool in 2019, 2020. We used about 4 billion DET fundings to pay for the increased level of service given Boulder's population had grown since Scott Carpenter Pool was originally constructed. So that's a very indirect way that we're getting revenue dollars to pay for expanded services.
And is that an ongoing fee that they pay or a one-time?
It's typically one time as they pull out a building permit. I think the secondary aspect is because we are getting sales tax dollars through the 0.25 cent sales tax fund. Anytime anyone goes out to eat in Boulder, we are getting a portion of their dollars coming back to the department. The property taxes assessed on each of those commercial buildings, we are getting a portion of it coming back to Parks and Recreation.
And do businesses pay, I assume, equal to residences? Because I see the general fund being kind of homeowners taxes and stuff and such. How do we make sure that businesses are also paying a fair share when we need monies for programs, us particular?
So on property taxes, businesses in Colorado actually pay significantly more. We can send you there's a really nice 5-minute FYI or explainer on the Gallagher amendment that was done. I forget the year. But big businesses that own property in Boulder pay a much higher share of property tax than homeowners. So for example, with the creation of the recent library district, it will proportionally cost businesses more than it will cost homeowners.
The rough split of property taxes is 70% commercial properties, 30% residential. And we can get you those actual numbers at a future meeting.
And how do we make sure that smaller businesses aren't unduly impacted and that larger big money makers are?
What you're talking about is just that small businesses should pay less than bigger businesses, a policy statement that I don't know is documented in our ordinances. I do know that our community vitality department has a small retail support strategy on its work plan for the next 2 years, because as Boulder has become increasingly expensive for everyone, that is showing up in the commercial sector. And there's a whole retail strategy designed to, like, we have financial aid for making sure our community has socio and economic diversity. The city has an interest that the same thing is true for businesses.
Thanks. Any more questions on our funds at all? Okay, so now we are going to take a look at our uses of funds, so our expenses. And just in looking at this chart, on the stack columns, the general fund is on the bottom in that light blue. You'll see the general fund has been, fairly consistent with expenses from 2019 through the 2023 approved budget. I will make a note, 2023 approved budget. There are some increases in that, right? We have restored services that were cut down in the pandemic. We have a cost escalation for personnel and non-personnel, and there's some more planned capital. So when we do look at that 2023 approved in the last column, and you will see on the top, it's at 35.9. So I should back up a little bit and just say those numbers on the top in red are the total expenses for that year. Okay. 2019 through 2022 actual, and then that last column is the approved budget for 2023. The second is the 0.25 cent sales tax fund that is in the green. You'll see the flexibility of the fund. As we look to 2020, for an example, you'll see a big increase in expenditure for that. And that was really because we were finishing up the two large capital projects, at the Boulder Reservoir for the new visitor center, and then also Scott Carpenter Pool. The Permanent Parks and Recreation Fund is seen in the yellow, and that's really the CIP for the capital, and followed by lottery. And then the capital other in bold, that is some of the funds Jackson was referring to with the capital development excise tax, or we also have the CCRS, which is the Community Culture, Resilience and Safety Tax, which voters approved last November. So we will get some one-time funding for that. So that's why you do see on that top capital, and it depends on the capital plans and projects, will go up and down for expenditure. I kind of skipped over the recreation activity fund, which is in that darker green, because we're going to look at a more detailed slide in just a moment on that. But total expenditure for 2022 was at 25.5 million, and the 2023 approved budget is coming in at 35.9 million. Mary,
Are you done with this slide?
I am.
Do you know if other cities in the country, or certainly our state, are making this kind of recovery? That looks pretty remarkable to me.
I think it varies based on the funding source. As Stacy mentioned, we have one of the most diversified funding sources with a dedicated sales tax, dedicated property tax, user fees primarily paying the recreation activity fund. I think if you look at that darker green, the recreation activity fund, you will see huge variations all over the country as far as have indoor services return to pre-pandemic levels. Is there a greater emphasis on outdoor activities where people feel more comfortable? But generally speaking, I think that most cities as a whole saw some sort of staffing reduction in 2020, continued into 2021. And then there's been a slow ramp back up. With our capital projects, I think that we are having the same struggle as anyone else, that there is cost escalation is causing us to prioritize. Staffing has been incredibly difficult for us to fill. If you look at 2022 actual, we had about an 8% ongoing staffing vacancy across the department that we're going to highlight. So part of the increase you are seeing is what we assume will happen in 2023. And we're hoping for the best. There was about $10 million for the Flatirons Golf Course that was supposed to be spent in 2022. That money is now carrying forward to 2023. So I do think that this trend is fairly consistent with what you would see with other agencies. I just want to caution you that it's not an apples to apples comparison. Our funding mechanism is completely different than Broomfield or Erie or Denver. But for our department, this is a very strong recovery.
And these issues, the 2019 actual kind of right, kind of our last normal year of operations. So you look at 2019 compared to 2023, you will see where things have started to recover. We are planning for the positive.
I want to point out, I guess I appreciate the optimism and enthusiasm. We are not, even with the 23 budget, back at 2019 spending. That was a big capital year because we finished Scott Carpenter and the Boulder Reservoir, but then when you add in cost escalation, we are not at full recovery. And really that's tied to indoor operations have not achieved the pre-pandemic levels.
Chuck.
I guess I would add that a big difference between Boulder and many other communities is the slice of the blue pie there. That is the general fund, and a lot of communities have much larger general fund apportionments to Parks and Recreation. And we have this much more varied funding source that makes Boulder kind of unique. Sorry for the background noise there.
Sounds like some fun airplanes.
Yeah, F-35 is going by.
Cool.
Thank you for pointing that out, Chuck, and we will have a whole slide dedicated to general fund subsidy received, so great point, we'll get there.
Okay, this next slide shows us our BPR uses of funds per budget category. Okay, so we do like to break it down, and again, that top number in the red will be the total expenditure for each year. The numbers that are running in the middle of the screen in that green are our operating expenditure, right? So we do like to take a look at what our operating expenses are as well. And the blue operating PE is our personnel costs. So that is our non-standard and standard staffing costs and benefits. The operating NPE in the green is the non-personnel expenses. So materials, equipment, services that we consult with and such. So just really focusing on that, you'll see 2019, we were at 21.5 million. You will see the dip down with the pandemic, holding steady through 2021. We have seen some recovery in 2022. And to Ally's point, there has been a lot of cost escalation. Salaries have increased, class and comp. We have seen inflationary costs and such affect those numbers. And we do really see that in the 2023 approved budget, just a continuation of those inflationary and increased expenses, bringing the operating cost up to 27.2 million. The capital that is dedicated to the departments, so the lottery fund and also Perm Parks is seen in that gold. So we'll see in 2019, 2020, those higher expenses due to those larger projects. And then you'll see how that continues through. The gold color would be the capital from the other funds that the department uses. We did throw in the September snowstorm in that green, just because that was a significant expense back in 2020. It was about $1 million in September when we had gotten that unprecedented snowstorm that hit. And then we do have cost allocation and interdepartmental transfers. So cost allocation, we are paying for services within the city that support the department, such as IT, human resources, and such. So we do have a cost allocation that we do absorb in that. So again, just a different way that the department looks at our uses and really does, want to know how our expenses are trending per budget category. Questions on that at all? Straightforward. All right. I said that we would circle back to the recreation activity fund and really kind of analyze this. And this gives the RAF performance revenue to expense comparison from 2019 through the 2022 actuals with the 2023 approved budget in there. And this is the one fund, as I had already mentioned, we do want to see that revenue to expense ratio in balance. And we see that in 2020, and we do see that in the 2023 approved budget. As we look to 2021, revenue did come in higher than expenses, and that is really called out with that ARPA funding that we received. The department did receive about $600,000 in ARPA funding in 2021, and that was really to help stabilize our operations. As we looked at 2022, you can see on this chart here that revenue does surpass expenses, but there's a story behind that, right? So if you're just looking at this, the RAF does look like it's doing extremely well and flush with revenue. However, there's just a couple of things to note here. About 47% of the revenue earned for the RAF was earned by the golf course, the reservoir, sports, and gymnastics. So they accounted for almost 50% of earned revenue in 2022. Centers still have not recovered to full levels of 2019. And, we did cover all of our community benefit programming. But as we look at that 47%, Flatirons Golf Course had a remarkable season. They exceeded revenue a little bit over $2 million. It was an all-time high for the golf course. And that was about $600,000 over their budget. Okay, what we have done is we have taken that $600,000 and we've earmarked that for the Flatirons Golf Course meetings. So although that money was not spent in 2022, right, with that project being moved forward and starting in 2023, that $600,000 is kind of already allocated for that. So I just think it's really important as we're looking at that to see the full picture. We also had about 500,000 unspent for personnel. So this was due to the staff vacancies that we had. And then we also had a big non-standard shortage with lifeguarding, right? It was pretty well known throughout 2022. There are no lifeguards within the state. We had received a grant to try to help attract and retain lifeguards. So we did have a large portion of that unspent for personnel, which is why you do see those expenses a little bit lower. But I did want to just note that all those high performing areas did spend their full budget target. So question.
Maybe it's a question for Ally, but what do you attribute the success of the golf course to in 2022?
I'm actually Stacy spends a lot of time out there managing their business, so I'd love to have Stacy answer that.
Absolutely. I think what happened is, the pandemic brought back golf, right? It was one outdoor activity that everyone could do. It was socially distanced, you could get out there, and we really started to see it grow out there. And I think people just stayed with the activity. It kind of revived it. Also, I want to just, put a call out to Stephanie Monroe's team. I think she's on the call here at the golf course. They have made that golf course inclusive. They are really encouraging kids to come out and college students to come out and all levels of play, all levels of ages to really come to that golf course, and they make it a welcoming environment. I do have a second office there just because it's such a happy place in the background. And they've just worked, and it's just a really wonderful place. If you haven't been to Flatirons Golf Course, I would highly suggest go play because it is great. We've gotten a new software system out there. We changed a lot of our business operations too. So we put all the booking of the tee times online. So we've made it easier for people to book a golf course round and such. So, they have taken some business initiatives. And as you all know, in 2020, we did implement passes out there that people could purchase, right? So that's another reason. And also the pricing for that golf course is pretty reasonable for a municipal course in the area. So that's just my perspective on it. Now, I don't know if you have anything to add or.
No, I actually appreciate you calling out. I'm sorry, I don't have the meeting up, so I didn't see Stephanie was here, but I do wonder if our regional facilities manager, Stephanie, she has oversight for the reservoir, the golf course and Belmont City Park. And I certainly support everything. I think Stacy mentioned a lot, and Stephanie, if there's anything you want to add, because you work directly with the team about why they are kicking so much golf boutte.
Yeah, no, I guess I would only probably add that just industry wise, across the nation, golf is up in all aspects. So we are just seeing a really nice high from COVID, and have just really introduced, like Stacy had mentioned, different business practices, process improvements, as well as a lot of younger golfers out there, especially in the afternoon. So total golf rounds played in 2022 is 4,773. Hot off the press. I just got that from Tom this afternoon. So yeah, good stuff.
So can I just ask one question on that? This is tangentially related to budget. You say rounds. Are we counting a round as 9 holes or 18 holes? Because it seemed like the trend nationally is that people are stopping playing 18 and they're playing 9 more, and that's actually getting more people out to play. Have you guys noticed that trend? Is that reflected in the data?
That's a great question. I don't have that answer. I'm assuming that Tom has counted all rounds. I certainly would be able to ask him to break that apart, and I'm sure we would have that data as far as how many 9 holes or full rounds that we would sold last year.
Golf standard is to base it on anyone who starts on a tee. It doesn't matter how many holes you finish. So that number of rounds is based on 9 and 18 holes. In our booking software, we can't break it out to see how many people played on the front 9, back 9, full 18. But I don't think we've actually done that analysis recently.
I was going to say it's really interesting because our practice area users, we also track, and there were over 39,000 practice area users in 2022. And if you look back, the previous year was only 31,000. So that's up exponentially. And yeah, over 47,000 rounds of golf played. So it's pretty amazing.
Your priorities.
That doesn't include our practice area use or our range as well. So, yeah, all those areas are very, very busy.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions on this slide?
Oh, I guess I do have one, sorry. So the golfers made that extra money. Is it, they made it so they get it?
I think
They
what
get to use it.
you're seeing is the master plan direction where we can be a little bit more entrepreneurial in the services that we are providing. Ultimately, we chose to reinvest in the golf course because it felt as if the revenue came directly from the golfers. And we are reinvesting in that capital project that will be going under construction very shortly. I think that the emphasis Tina has shared with you multiple times is that facility isn't just for golfers. It's intended to be a community facility. It's intended to be welcoming to the community for a variety of events. We can't currently host tournaments. And there is a huge need in the East Boulder sub-community plan to have more restaurant space and social gathering opportunities that building will ultimately support.
And there was no funding. Is this paying for extra things that weren't planned for at the golf course?
This is paying for a portion of it. Collectively, the project's roughly $10 million. So about 6 to 7% of the budget is coming out of this fund. We do have capital development dollars, we have permanent parks dollars, we have $0.25. So it is a very diversified funding source that is paying for the golf course.
I want to add just that it is, I think Tina's come to you a couple of times to talk about the value engineering with that project. It is way over budget because of cost escalation. So it's not paying for nice fancy things, it's paying for that base project. And when we saw the revenues that they were coming in and because of the cost escalation, I mean, I'll say out loud, we had several conversations where it's like, time out, let's look at this project because it is very expensive. What do we do? What's the level of service? What goal are we trying to achieve with this project? And then how do we pay for it? So rather than decrease other capital projects, these dollars were available and they've been allocated to the project to cover that cost escalation. So really directly, that's what's happening.
Okay. And just because I'm not as in it as you, when we're in the era of equity and inclusion, and I hear something, I don't play golf, my family does, but you know, and then I think of people who can't afford golf, we won't get out there and yeah, just want to make sure that we have an eye towards, you know, making sure the money goes spread around.
Well, the other note I'll say is that the intention is with the new building, and I'll guess maybe even be a little more direct what Jackson was saying, is that the golf course, they have adopted this motto that Flatirons is where everybody feels welcome. And so the idea with the new facility, we do intend this to be a revenue positive facility. And as we talked with City Council about this capital expenditure, we made a commitment that and they agreed this will be somewhat in our fee policy. Those revenues are going to get reinvested into the system for I would hope, you know, this is an ideal list. We could be hosting community events at the golf course. We could be providing free registrations and equipment to kids who otherwise wouldn't have access to golf. So once the building is paid for and this revenue trend continues, which we anticipate it to, we do think it's going to fund equity.
Any other questions?
I do. The permanent Parks and Rec fund, we have a policy or a goal of how much of that is sustained every year? Like, we don't just pay it down every year, right? I mean, there's always some amount in our coffers, and I'm wondering if there's any kind of a goal around that.
So within all three of our funds that we self-manage, both 65-cent sales tax fund, recreation activity fund, and permanent parks and recreation fund, we have several different reserve categories. We have a pay period 27 reserve to pay for the 27th pay period every 11 years. We have a sick and vacation reserve. As employees leave, we pay out certain balances, and then we have an operating reserve. The target citywide is that every fund has a 16.7% operating reserve. So within this fund, it's not a whole lot of money because we have very few operating dollars. But within the capital projects themselves, we do keep a contingency based on the level of engineering we do have. So Mark's been really updating that, where when the project first gets in the CIP, it may have a 30% cost contingency because you aren't actually built for 5 years and there's so much uncertainty over that next 5 years. And then on top of that, we do have an ending fund balance that we keep at about $300,000 to $500,000 in this fund. So we don't fully spend it down each year. We basically carry money over in savings. And I think we are very opportunistic about all of our funding sources of what is a dedicated funding source, what has the most flexibility, and how do we prioritize what we're spending so that we really are getting the best bang for our buck and utilizing funding in a way that makes sense. Thank you.
Another question, do we have any funds that are held in banks or do we keep it all?
I honestly don't. Everything's held with Chase Morgan.
Okay.
We have a citywide accounting. There's different fund accounting, so there's 42 different funds citywide. The finance department is very much responsible for the daily treasury and interactions of how our names allocated, invested, things of that nature. We just have control over our money spent out, but overall, it's a copper.
So a large institution.
And then when we are looking to do the next year's budget development, so for 2024, we will make sure that all those funds are balanced, right? So we're not going to submit a budget that's going to put us in a deficit for any of these funds.
Thank you.
Any other questions at all before we move on? Great, thank you for the questions. All right, moving on to 2024 budget development. So this slide just really highlights some budget strategy goals with the PRAB. And again, we are certainly requesting your input in the 2024 budget strategy. We're going to be taking a look at some of the 2022 master plan primary policy shifts, and then also just a path forward to set recreation on a sustainable path. Jackson's going to be talking about the development of the fee policy for 2024, and then the review of the 2024 through 2029 CIP is not going to occur this evening, but we will be using the study session for that, and then Mark will be presenting 2 touches on that in April and May, and with final approval for the perm parks in June. But we just want to kind of remind the PRAB's role for budget development, And that is basically the PRAB shall make recommendations to the council concerning any appropriation or expenditure from the Permanent Parks and Recreation Fund. And the PRAB shall make recommendation to the council concerning the proposed PNR annual budget. Okay, and I believe the shalls and mays were discussed during your study session that you had back in October. So is there any questions on this or your role in our process? Shall move forward. Okay, just looking at some 2022 BPR master plan primary policy shifts. And these policy shifts are going to guide the 2024 budget development. The first one really is that we're planning for the fiscally constrained level. And with no new funding, we are going to have to evaluate our service levels to identify any community supported reductions. So we're going to be taking a look at our existing funding and what we can support out in the community. We will also be looking at additional alternate funding sources to maintain existing levels of service. So with that, we will be looking at grants and donations. How can we increase that? Is there one-time infusions from grant funding that will help specific projects or programs? The department will be looking at onboarding someone to kind of help steer that within the next quarter or two. So that will be great. We'll also be looking at our additional tax subsidy. So the general fund subsidy is an ongoing source of funding. We're going to be working a lot with finance in 2024 to kind of set those levels and see how they can support our community benefit programs. And, prioritize, right? We always have to prioritize and make decisions. And our priority is focused on taking care of what we have, and then also community health and wellness. The third policy shift in this is that we really need to find alternate sources for revenue generation. So the department does need to get creative in our funding. And, we'll be looking at perhaps adults paying a full cost recovery, looking at our fee policy and our fee structure, and then just exploring other revenue generating opportunities. So is there a service that would be interested to the community that could help us, generate more revenue, and just really looking outside of the box at those opportunities. This really sets a sustainable path forward. During the 2023 budget development, we presented this slide to EBT, our executive budget team, which is basically our outlined plan to set recreation on a sustainable path into the future. As we take a look at this slide, we'll see the first step was the acceptance of the master plan. So check, we've done that. And we're really in between 2 and 3. So we are looking at our 2022 data. We are doing a lot of cost analysis. As a department, we really do want to have a really firm understanding of our actual costs of our services that we're providing out to the communities. Right now, staff is doing a lot of financial analysis on that. And we're also beginning to categorize services and allocate our subsidy. So out of the master plan, it is a priority to fund community benefit programming first. And if we look up to the right box up at the top, you can kind of see our BPR service categories with community, recreation, and exclusive community services. Basically, for the greatest good of the community, greatest community benefits, recreation services, benefit a broad range of users and targeted to promote physical and mental well-being. And then we have our exclusive services, right? So those are more of our specific programs or more advanced programs. And how we pay for those, our community, we would like to have high subsidy support those programs, and more of a low subsidy or user fees supporting our exclusive programs. So definitely looking through our fee development policy to really dig into this a little bit deeper and outline what that's going to look like for the future. And that will help us move forward into Q2 through Q3. And then we'll be able, as we build the budget, to determine our service level and also set our fees for the department. For the 2024 budget, we definitely want to use the SCR framework or the sustainability, equity, and resilience framework in those categories to align better with the city and also for a holistic approach. And we are talking with finance about ongoing HEF allocations, which is the Health Equity Fund, in which helps we receive funding to help provide financial assistance for access into our recreation centers, and then also help support our youth services initiatives through some grants there. So that is our path forward that we hope the PrEP supports. Okay, taking a look at the recreational activity fund, general fund subsidy here, and that is going to be on your left-hand side. The general fund subsidy basically helps the department ensure equitable access and allows us to offer programming that may not achieve full cost recovery, but has the greatest community benefit, right? It makes those programs that are most important to our community open and accessible. As we look to that chart to the left-hand side, you'll see that we do have the recreation activity, our revenue and expenses. And then that line on the bottom is the general fund subsidy the department has received. So as we look 2017 actual through 2021, you'll see the subsidy level was pretty flat, right? Even though we have more community need, increasing costs and needs, funding was flat. As we look to 22 in 2023, it does bump up a little bit, and that is because we were awarded one-time funding infusions for each year. And that was really to help make sure that the RAF was sustainable and that we could keep offering those community benefit programming. As we look over to the right-hand side, the 2023 approved budget and general fund subsidy usage, you will see specifically for 2023, the department was awarded $1.6 million. We did receive that one-time infusion of $500,000, bringing that total up to $2.1 million for 2023. And we are very deliberate and we do prioritize how this is going to be used. And it's really focused on access and inclusion, which you can see in the blue, and that it basically supports our expand programming for people with disabilities. It supports our youth services initiative. And such, we do have a portion that supports the age-based discounts. So the discounts that we are giving to youth and seniors to access our facilities. We have financial assistance that is offered for any Boulder resident that qualifies. And that really, those three categories really taps out the funding that we were awarded in 2023. And then you'll see that last, we have a department funded program manager, and that is being absorbed in the operating budget. That is for a youth services program manager to kind of oversee those services and basically make sure we're reaching those areas, because in the master plan, youth and teens, right, came out as a priority. We wanted to make sure that we had our focus on that in 2023. Questions?
Where the funding was federal for the 22-23. Where was the state?
That's all city general fund dollars.
City general fund. So GF is the general fund. So we have our general fund that we get about the 6 million, and then we do receive that general fund subsidy directly to the RAF every year, about 1.6 million over the last several years. And that's what we use to support our community benefit funded program.
Don't worry about me. These are all like daisy chained together. Yours is. And so I just need to connect.
So what we will be doing is we will be working with finance to take a look at the general fund subsidy, right? We spent a lot of time, if you were on the board last year, you may remember we spent a lot of time looking at balancing and requesting additional funding and to make sure the RAF was sustainable. So this kind of outlines those outcomes. And we will be working with finance, like I just said, just to see what those levels will look for 2024, and then also hopefully put some policy around it. Okay, 2024 budget development strategy. In your packet, we had detailed out some opportunities, challenges, and recommendations in detail. This is just looking at it from a pretty high level. So opportunities and recommendations, and this is what staff has identified. There will be a question on this in just a moment, but the reallocation of the library funding does give opportunity for additional dollars, and that has been rolled into the 2024 budget development, and we will be looking at that through the process. We want to make sure that we define a clear budget for operations and maintenance in line with the asset management program. Mark and his team are working on that in more detail to follow on what that's going to look like, hoping for perhaps approval for the permanent parks and recreation fund CIP approval. And then really we are looking to develop a fee policy for 2024, and Jackson's going to dive into that a little bit deeper. The graph there just shows the program benefit and fee balance as we're looking to develop the fee policy. This did come right out of the 2022 master plan. And it kind of outlines who benefits and who pays, right? Community programming should be supported more by taxes, while individual programming should be supported more by the user fees. So, you know, we will be definitely taking this into consideration as we look at our fee policy and work with the PRAB in developing that over the next few months. To the other side, challenges, you know, no surprise, revenues are not keeping pace with increased in expenses. This is right out of the master plan. You can see where we do have our current funding on that chart, which is outlined on the left. In the middle, you'll see where there are identified programming gaps between the current funding and the recommended funding. So, you know, the department does really need to be very deliberate in our approach in setting our budget and really doing a very good prioritization of everything as those budgets are developed. You know, another challenge is the age of our assets and also our unfunded capital maintenance. So that's something else we will be exploring through this budget development process. All right, so that was a lot of talking. Is there any questions before we go into your questions that we have for you this evening?
Question on the gap. Can you go back? So the gap, you might have explained, it's just
The gap that you have is programs that you're gonna need to cut or programs that you want to reinstate?
This is looking at the current level of service. So our financial consultant and the master plan consultant looked at all of our expenses over the last 5 or 6 years. And they identified that our current level of services costs 8.9 million, or is $8.9 million is what we receive in revenue. But the actual cost to deliver those services is 9.9. So we do have $1 million funding gap to close. And then similarly for the operations and maintenance, in the ideal state based on national best practices, we do paying 4% of our current replacement value every year. We're currently only funding 8.6 million, which is 2.9%. So basically, we can't even keep up with the best practices for taking care of what we have. So that would be an additional 3.3 million.
Got it. Thank you. Any questions at all?
So question,
So just, are you, in terms of finding alternative sources of revenue, are you guys generating ideas about that? And like identifying if there are potential grants or philanthropic opportunities or whatnot available?
All of it. If you think of the slide that in the master plan, we specifically asked for Pratt and Council to weigh in on, how do you feel about us being more of a social enterprise? So the definition of that, right, is that you're not making money for profit and for shareholders, but to fund the goods services that you provide. We got a thumbs up on that policy. That's a shift for us. In the past, only taxes paid for community benefit services. And so this conversation we were just talking about, the golf course is the perfect example. So we expect to be more entrepreneurial. We expect to lean in hard on public-private partnerships, grants, and philanthropy. One of the positions that was approved in the 2023 budget is a partnerships position that's been vacant since the pandemic. They are in the final stages of that recruitment right now. That position, in addition to managing our volunteers, will be a grant specialist.
Jeff, see you have your hand up.
Yeah, I'd really like to emphasize that idea of having a grant specialist who can pursue federal money in particular. I think that with the Inflation Reduction Act, there's a lot of potential money on the table. And someone who's skilled in navigating that landscape, I think it's an investment and it's a risk, but I think that the payoff is substantial enough to make it worth your while. There are lots of things from what I mentioned last meeting about the money for tree planting. There's also money for improvements, capital improvements to increase energy efficiency, to move toward more solar power and things like that I think you should pursue with as much gusto as you can manage.
We're lots of gusto involved. So in addition to the Parks and Recreation position, Central Finance is also hiring a grant specialist. And the intention is that Central Finance position is going to be those federal grants and, the really large, the grants that are specific to Parks and Recreation, the things that we can find are going to be in the 6 figures. The things that are available at that much larger level in the infrastructure level are 6 figures or 7 figures and more. And so the city's putting a lot of gusto into those efforts. We think that it is opportunistic right now with so much funding available.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
When you design these graphs on the previous slide, do you guys as financial experts look at things like a potential recession, the recovery of the average American financially, if their salaries are going up or not? Do you do those micro adjusting?
So finance department actually works very closely with CU Economics every year. And they are looking at our funding, they're doing the projections, they're looking about what's going on in Boulder and our community at large. And they're doing a lot of analysis. They are in the process of doing that work now. And then they will roll out their recommendations to city finance department to help kind of steer what our funding sources should look like, what our levels should look like. So yes, it's looked at, extremely in detail.
For the master plan specifically, we had Valerie King as a sub-consultant on the plan. Their entire reports included in attachment B in your packet. but they really specialize in looking at those overall trends of revenues and expenses. And their basic takeaway was we're on the top 5% performers of Parks and Recreation departments nationwide. We have experienced a lot of headwinds and tailwinds on how we're doing, but they were able to analyze basically from the last master plan's adoption in 2014 through 2020 actuals. And then they also provided us a forward-looking perspective. And that's where you're seeing this delta that's on the screen. They said to basically sustain our current level of service would take $33.3 million. We had a similar financial analysis done in the 2014 master plan. And what was interesting to me is over the course of the 7 years between adoption of the two plans, the revenues that they had forecasted in the 2014 plan ended up about $1 million of margin of error for the department. And if you're thinking we have a $30 million budget over 7 years, that is a very good margin of error to have. Jason?
Yeah, hey everyone. Sorry for not being in person and for being off camera, and Rosa for helping me with my tech challenges. I just had a question. I wanted to go back to the question that Chuck raised, and also that Ali, the point you made about the grants, the person working with Gusto on grants. Just a question, probably for you, Ali. How much would that be, that position, both a PRAB or a Parks and Rec position and then a larger city position? How much would that be integrated with the government affairs team that the city already has? Do you know?
That's a really good question. I actually think I'll have Jackson answer it because I think he's been talking with central finance, but if not, so were you talking about the city's policy office and setting our legislative agenda when you say our governmental affairs team?
Yeah, isn't that Carl, right?
Yep.
Or, that team, it just seems like that, rather than, I mean, obviously they're very skilled in what's happening, particularly at the state level, the federal level, and it makes sense to not have those roles kind of operate, independently in departments, stuff you all already know.
They'll be closely coordinating. Carl does lead a citywide partnerships team, and I hesitate to use that word because we're trying to define it right now in our department, as we find that there's a lot of interest in being partners with us, but that usually means people want the city to give them things for free. There is a citywide team that Carl is leading around funding. The other thing I'll point out is that we have incredible partners in the climate initiatives department, and they actually are some of their lobbying, they claim, is the reason the urban canopy and funding for forestry was included in the infrastructure or the Inflation Reduction Act and all the infrastructure funding. So there's a lot of really great people in the city working on these large funding opportunities, and we are working closely with them. Did I get there, Jason? Did that answer your question?
Yeah, perfect. Thanks very much.
Any other questions, Chuck?
On page 8 of your presentation, you had a approved budget of 35.9 million. So I wonder about the discrepancy between that and the 33 point whatever that is in the slide you're showing now on page 18.
Great question.
Capital other.
So you can see that mustard color at the very top is capital other. That is other funding sources that the department doesn't typically tap into. So that's the community culture, resilience and safety tax. It's the development excise tax. So without that, we would be much closer to the 32 million mark. The other thing I'll call out is you'll see the ebbs and flows we have in the 0.25 and permanent parks and the Perm Parks Fund. Basically, we use those to fund capital projects in certain years, where we'll see a bigger increase when we're funding a certain project, and then we'll have less funding in another year. If you look at the averaged total dollar amounts, we are still under that 33 million called out on slide 18. So that's really looking at it averaged over a multi-year period rather than kind of the ebbs and flows we see in individual years. Okay, so we do have some questions for you focused on the budget strategy. They are up here on the screen. Would love to get your input to help shape our conversation over the next few months. But we've identified what the parameters are for the budget conversation. Is there anything else that you would like us to explore? And on the bottom, we do have the opportunities, challenges, and recommendations that were included in the packet, as well as earlier on the slide, just as a reminder point.
Have we, I hate to even suggest it, but have we considered corporate sponsorships? Especially with like local corporate sponsors?
I think I'm not going to answer your question directly at first. We have been talking about the philanthropy and donations aspect. I do want to call out that last year we received over $600,000 in grants and donations to the department. And that was without a grants and philanthropy person in that position. If you look how much we brought in over the last 6 years, I believe it's about 1.7 million. So we are getting a lot of outside dollars. The city, as well as the department, do have a naming policy. So what you see with a lot of best practices in the parks and recreation industry is corporate naming rights, individual naming rights. For a dollar amount, you can name a classroom, a program, a facility after yourself. So we do have an existing policy. We were actually looking at that last week, and I believe it's 13 years old at this point. So some of the dollar amounts in there may not accurately reflect inflation, but there is definitely policy guidance that does exist, and I think that is one avenue we could explore.
Any additional areas of focus you all would like to see next few months?
I don't know if this fits in, but I keep thinking of the proximity and usage overlap in the area in South Florida where Fairview High School is, Southern Hills Middle School, and South Florida Rec Center. And I just feel like there's a lot of opportunity there for more partnership. A great opportunity for some income with restaurants / cafes, or all those kids who go to King Supers on their lunch break, who would benefit both, physically and mentally as far as health goes, eating something better and sitting by the lake. I just think there's a lot there that hasn't been tapped into as far as a real community center that could really enhance physical and mental health in that area. Maybe bring in some money or share, sharing those resources better so that you're not paying double or something. So I don't know if that's explored right now or how much that's talked about, but
what I hear you identifying as a potential concessionaire, other opportunity for that park, it hasn't been a priority. We've, been working on it at the reservoir and at the golf course. Where I think that will be a conversation is as we explore the facility's future, which we teed up for you last month, and will be a conversation over the next 18 months. And so I would assume that something like that could come out and could help inform the future of property in that area.
yeah, I would love to see that. I feel like there's a lot of potential there. You guys work with other departments and say, hey, can you look, do you see any gaps? I'll look at yours, you look at ours, and
Yes. We have a monthly meeting with the central finance department to go over what's going on with our department. We have multiple service areas within Parks and Recreation that are collaborating with other departments on a regular basis. Open space, housing and human services, just a handful of departments across the board. And then what the city is really good at is through the annual budget process, there is a representative from each department that listens to each other's budget presentations. So we will do something very similar to this with our colleagues and find opportunities to collaborate, opportunities for synergies across departments. So there are a whole lot of opportunities to do that.
And what do you do to put rigor into the conversation? Provocative and, bring ideas up that might not be like, hey, good job, looking great, sign off.
I think the city as a whole hires very smart, passionate individuals that are great at their service areas. but it's also an opportunity for us to learn about other areas and ask tough questions. I think that some of the examples come through our capital budget development process. Are there better synergies that we can have with transportation for bike pathways? An example with facilities and utilities is, can we use wastewater recovery to help heat a facility? There's just so many great ideas across the board that I do feel challenged every day.
I'll add, there's two things. Our central finance department is in year 2 of a 3-year budget process improvement. They're calling budgeting for resilience, and it's how they're stress testing the city's budget, making sure that it is outcome based. So in this second year, the key advancements are every single program that the city, a program is a service you provide, whether ongoing or time bound, has to be tied to the city's strategic framework, and they have to identify strategic outcomes. And if you can't do it, there's going to be a whole lot of questions and pushback. Because of the KPIs and the way we just did our work, we're actually going to be one of the first departments to go down this path and model for other departments. Another thing I'll call out, you all haven't seen yet the kickoff, it's coming. The city of Boulder is going to be a UNICEF child-friendly city. And through that, we're going to create a youth plan. And what I'm really excited that means is that across the city, we're going to look at the way we serve youth. And we're going to do something called asset mapping, but for not physical infrastructure. So how are we serving kids 0 to 5, 5 to 12, teen and high school? And in that, we'll see where do we have gaps maybe? Where are we duplicating or triplicating, and how we operate more efficiently to better serve kids? So I think that's a way to, all of the departments are going to be lifting up the hood on the way we serve kids, and it's going to have great outcomes, and I'm really excited about it.
I mentioned that one as well. Stat too. And we actually got a grant from the Children in Nature Network. So speaking of grants and tying this all together, and one of 3 cities in the US that it was a small grant, but it's allowed to focus in on a GIS application for 0 to 5's at Violet Park, which is a working title. And we'll be happy to bring that back to you later on down the road so you can see how some of that work's coming together. And it's nice when you combine grants for research and then application.
And then being my last meeting, just that final push for looking at seniors as well. So much focus on you, and that's great. But we have a very aging population. And less than 2 decades, I'll be joining them. Just want to make sure that we're not doing all the kids and old people on fixed budgets unable to participate in our society.
I would like to think Boulder's everybody's city, and that's really all the efforts around youth and older adults and equity are making sure that the folks who maybe fly under the radar. So what we should bring back, Mary, your question is prompting me, is that with our partners at HHS, Boulder did commit to become forget the name of it, lifelong, Stephanie or Brian or Megan, if you remember the HHS initiative, it's a program that's very similar to this child-friendly city, Mary, but it is for, and what's fascinating is I don't care if the age range you look at, what we're finding is that good design for kids is good design for older adults. And the term is actually universal design. So I'm going to give a really simple example. We know that when there's more time to cross the sidewalk, you as a mother with a stroller or a father with a stroller have more time. If you are a person in a wheelchair, you have more time. If you are 85 and walking very slow with a cane or you also, so there's a lot of design principles that go across the ages as far as improving accessibility.
Okay, so we're going to move down to question 2. Is there any additional data that you need to help inform your decision making? I think that, as Ali mentioned, we have a whole lot of metrics that we do track on a daily, monthly, quarterly basis that we are happy to provide and share. We just don't want to overwhelm you with how much data we collect.
Yeah. When the new people come in, if you have the time to create a legend about your acronyms, that was a hard thing for me when I first, and I'm in the business, you're rap and you're this, and you're that, and it's not our lingo.
We have a 3-page document on that.
Okay.
So
We'll
provide it.
That says it all.
And then the third question is really just, we identified staff's perceived opportunities, challenges, and recommendations. Is there anything else you would like us to add to this list as we are talking with our colleagues in the department to develop the budget, our colleagues in the central finance department, and just preparing for the conversations with you over the next 3 months.
A question, even though I won't be here, but where does the homeless issue come into play? I mean, meaning like the adjacency to the high school and the playgrounds and the amphitheater, like the cleanup, and I'm talking budgeting. I'm not talking, I'm just like, you know, when they do the cleanup, is that Public Works or is Public Works, or is that you know?
So I'm gonna connect dots a little bit. So we shared in the future board items that on April 13th, the Safe and Managed Public Spaces team, that is a multidisciplinary team of police, utilities, parks and recreation, housing and human services. We're gonna give an update on the pilot projects that council funded in 2021 and all of that data. So we could give a deep dive on that tonight, but I wonder, Pam, if it would, you're not gonna be here at the April meeting. Here's how it shows up in the budget is that we're gonna be reporting back on these pilot projects and asking for funding for them to continue in 2020.
But I can log on and listen because I'm.
Of course,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay, okay. Because that's expensive. I was just wondering if it's in your pot or somebody else's pot.
I mean, it's addressing it as a community need that's covered in a lot of different ways.
Right, but I want to know whose budget is it? Like, I'm interested to know, like in my budget, I don't have any of that. You know, it's all in Public Works and in the Sheriff's Department. So I was just wondering if there was any that was in our budget.
There is some that is in Parks and Recreation's budget. It is primarily in the general fund.
I see. Thank you.
So other than the equitable access focus, have you ever put like the lens of inclusion and equity over everything to look at how it can?
Yep. So there's a citywide racial equity instrument that we use for any decision making. There's a condensed version and then there's a full version. And with any program that is going to the executive budget team for review, we do complete the full analysis on who's going to be impacted, who are we harming, or who are we excluding from some activity based on our budgeting decisions. So it is very much included and embedded in our decision making, and all of our programming staff is aware of the equity instrument and uses it to make their decisions as well. Good. I know this is a marathon, so we have a few more slides.
And just to set this one up, Jackson, this is the subject of your study session in 2 weeks. And so the information that Jackson's about to give really is to just soften the ground for the conversation in 2 weeks. So.
Thank you, Ellie. So we're going to talk fee policy development. As many of you know, the department is seeking CAPRA accreditation. This is accreditation from the National Recreation Parks Association and really identifies that you are really good at what you do. With that, there is a requirement within our accreditation application that we have a fee policy. I think this is really good timing just because we have a whole lot of fees across the department, and some of them come before PRAB, but not all of them do. So we've given you a timeline back to 2014 master plan. With the adoption of the 2014 citywide budget, City Council chose to remove the Parks and Recreation fee from the Boulder Revised Code. It used to be required that certain fees went to City Council, were included in a public notice process. And because it wasn't all of our fees, it wasn't very equitable or consistent across the board. So in 2014, the decision was made to back those fees out. As you're aware, we've talked about facility access fees a whole lot. For anyone who's been on PRAB, it was in 2014, 16, 18, 20, 22, and 23. But those even years and then 2023 are when we have increased the access to fees. The work done in 2020 was really streamlining it for the Boulder Reservoir and the outdoor pools to be consistent with our 3 recreation centers. And that really focused more so on the consistency of the menu options, simplifying what it was for the customer to understand, our staff members to be able to adequately answer questions, instead of having 35 different ways you could access a facility. So a lot of that work was done in 2020, and PRAB has really weighed in and given a whole lot of policy guidance on the facility access fees. In 2019, right before COVID hit, Tom Busby and Stephanie Monroe were before you and talked about the golf course fees. At that time, we changed the pricing model for the golf course. There's the introduction of the pass. There was standardization of the fees. We have a weekly rate and then a weekend rate, which includes Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And there was a whole lot of PRAB guidance that was provided to us at that point in time. So right now we're at the yellow flag looking for guidance on 2024. And with that, we are hoping to get your input on a fee policy that helps really document all of our PRAB guidance that we have received that's in 15 plus PRAB memos into one very simplified document. And then there's other areas where we don't feel as if we had very clear community, PRAB, or city council direction that we are looking for advice to incorporate into that fee policy. This fee policy will really help us embed that in the 2024 budget development process. And then by having a standalone fee policy, it would allow us to update the fees annually in a way that's consistent with the PRAB direction and guidance, and really simplifies the overall process. So we are coming back here and sharing years of PRAB memos with. So these three areas of revenue collection are very well documented and have been reviewed with the PRAB. As I mentioned, the facility access focuses on the 3 rec centers, the outdoor pools, and the Boulder Reservoir. We historically base this on what is our actual cost to deliver this service for the adult resident to access a facility for one visit. As you can see, we have done fee increases in 2016, 2018, 2020, and 2023. All of this comes as PRAB recommendation, is reviewed by City Council as part of the budget process, and is ultimately publicized as a city manager rule, which takes effect after 7 days. The benefit level provided really focuses on that community recreation. So we have our recreation. As a reminder, Stacy showed you a slide that we have community, recreation, and exclusive. Recreation is kind of the capture all where users are paying for a good portion of it, but taxes are also subsidizing it to an effect. So we do plan to update this in 2024. The next item is the golf course. The golf course does have a variety of different revenue collection mechanisms, as we talked about. Rounds of golf being 9 or 18 holes, cart rentals, driving range, tournaments, in the future state, a concessionaire space. So typically this is based on market rate comparison. The last time we updated the fees was in 2022. And at that time, we said that we weren't going to update any fees at the golf course until the CIP project was completed. So we aren't really looking to change anything with the golf course given its success and the fact that there's so much to evaluate upon the completion of the new clubhouse. And then finally, we have the recreation services. Back in 2014, PRAB approved the Recreation Priority Index. This is a tool that all of our programmers use to identify what is the cost recovery, who benefits, and how we pay for it. All of our staff go through this training on an annual basis, and we update our fees through that process. Because this RPI was adopted by PRAB, we typically don't come and say, this is how much we're going to charge for a gymnastics class. We have about 4,000 programs a year that we offer, and it seems a little ridiculous to bring you 4,000 fees to analyze on a regular basis. So this is where we feel as if we have very clear and direct PRAB guidance. What we're proposing is taking this out of the PRAB memos and putting it into a set fee policy. So we aren't really going to go very deep on this in the next 2 months because we feel as if we have a lot of our questions answered here. Because there's existing policy here, I'll pause for a minute and see if there's any questions. Chuck?
Ally mentioned expanding the Recreation Priority Index to cover other types of recreation services, including facility access. And I wonder if that is folded into this policy development.
Yes, and let me say it a little bit differently. What I think I said is that the RPI works really well for programs where we design and deliver the program. And what we intend to do with the fee policy is clarify the level of subsidy and benefit of other services. So when Jackson, all of these, if you look at the benefit level, what we anticipate happening at your study session in 2 weeks is we're going to talk about the spectrum of community to individual benefit. And we're going to agree where these different things live. Because the RPI can't answer it for all services.
I think there's value to an objective tool though, and I would encourage it to be more than just some words, but some way to quantify as much as possible the community benefit.
We agree. Yeah.
Mary, did you have a question?
I'll wait. I want to,
Okay.
you're probably gonna answer it.
Okay. So on this slide, we have 4 additional categories where we don't feel as if there is consistent or regular PrAP guidance or community city council guidance, and that's because we haven't asked you. This really lives in so many different areas that we are trying to grasp our hands around it. What we have grasped is some categorization on the far left side, where we think that there's really 3 additional categories for us to define a fee policy. The first one being rentals and access. This is everything from field rentals for a soccer field to a lane rental for swimming. And as I shared, that tool varies based on the service area of the department that you fall within, as well as when was the last time it was reviewed and discussed with the PrAP. So we very much view a lot of this access as either recreation or exclusive. And there are different funds impacted. So we plan to develop a full formal policy for rentals and access in the 3rd and 4th quarter. But what we're looking for to wrap up as part of the budget development process is an overall policy that guides the direction we have. And then we'll dive into the further details later in the year. Second line item down is commercial use. So we have a variety of programs that operate in our parks, buildings we lease or partner with. And this is really a commercial activity that's taking place in one of our parks, facilities, you name it. Once again, this varies, don't have a whole lot of guidance, and we view most commercial use as exclusive access, given you have to register for it, where there's a paid aspect associated with it. The third category we have is facilitated programming, and Chuck, this probably falls more in line with what you have. Facilitated programming is where we partner with someone. As Ali mentioned, partnership is a very broad terminology, and we have revenue shares that are across the board. So we did try to provide examples. This isn't to call out any specific program. It's really to help you visualize what we're talking about. Gonzo Tennis and Goats and Gardens are 2 examples that we have here. And with that, we do have a revenue share where for some programs, we will be responsible for registration and collect a portion of the revenue. For others, we have the partners do their own registration. So there is some policy question around that we do need to clarify. Once again, we view this as a very exclusive use of our facilities, and this primarily impacts the RAF. Finally, we have grants, philanthropy, and donation. We do have an external funding strategy and are very opportunistic about it. But to Elliot's point, there could be some updating done as far as what we're doing. And we do have the formal partnership with Play that I just wanted to call out. So generally speaking, the top 3 categories here you see on the left-hand column is what we plan to explore during the study session with you in 2 weeks, and just wanted to verify that the revenue categories we've identified are what you would agree we should focus on. So we're down to our final slide. We have 3 questions for you. Staff has developed the parameters to guide development of a fee policy over the next several months. Is there anything else you would like us to explore?
So this pertains to fee policy, but I would be interested to see what other cities are doing that are comparable cities in terms of like population, whatever, for their fee policy on those items. And obviously, we're not just going to adopt it, but it's a good starting point. And it'd be helpful for us because I have no baseline like of what a fee policy should look like. So it'd be helpful to see like what, Tucson, Arizona does or whatever it is, like just to see what it looks like.
We had intended to pull the benchmark identified cities. So in 2014, we identified cities as our chosen benchmarks because they were cities of a similar size, but also we wanted high performing cities. So we looked at cities who've achieved what are known as the highest standards in our profession. They've either achieved the accreditation that you've heard us talk about that we're pursuing. They've won a gold medal by the National Recreation and Park Association. And so we'll be pulling the cities that we've identified, but we also will just look for some locally. There are CAPRA accredited agencies in our state that are not recognized as our peer cities, but they do a nice job. So we'll be sharing a few of those.
Great, thank you. Chuck?
So on number 2 here, the process to create a fee policy, I think you need to look carefully at broader city goals and not just focus on parks and recreation goals. So climate initiative, transportation, even housing, how are these policies going to impact the other aspects of the city that are important in livability and broader city goals?
Very good.
So 2 and 3 are up there. I'm not going to read them, but would love any other feedback.
We have so many people coming to speak and I don't know what to say. It's not really criticized, but just to say fees are high, et cetera. Is there a way that we point them, for example, to today? Or, please reach out. These are the questions we'll be asking, and so that they do feel like they have some input.
I think this is a great opportunity, and I think looking forward a year or two, by having a fee policy in place, it helps the PRAB explain to those individuals or organizations why our fees are what they are. It's very consistent, clear to interpret, and it's in one policy document. You don't need to reference multiple different sources. And I think as part of this process, we do plan to have various engagement with different user groups talking about fee changes, et cetera. It's not like we would just implement a fee change and January 1st it's in effect. There's definitely some outreach that has to go in and notify organizations, individuals that we are planning to increase fees, explain the reason behind it, as well as the policy direction that we received from this board. Okay, we will have an exercise for you in 2 weeks. Heard your feedback and have noted it. We will make sure we're looking at what the city's goals are across the board, and then also some policies from our peer agencies, as well as those across the state to share with you. Thank you all for the marathon of the session.
Thank you all for your questions and engagement. Really helpful.
Nice job. It's a dense topic.
It's an exciting.
But every day.
It is the most wonderful time of the year.
You love your job when you can say that.
Yeah, right. When you're sitting in March, it's still the most fun.
Well, we can move on to matters from the department in North Boulder Park.
Yep, it looks like senior landscape architect Tina Briggs is here to present that item.
Yes, let me share my screen here in a second. Share. Okay, so we're just gonna talk about North Boulder Park again, so not necessarily the concept plan, so just kind of what we're talking about today is more of a schedule update than anything else. So just as a quick reminder, I think the last time you guys saw this was in October, and so what you were looking at in October was 2 alternates of the plan and discussing what that was like, and then we also were out at the community talking to them. Went to the park and had some conversations looking at the alternatives. So where we are at the project is we really need to take those 2 alternatives and all of the feedback
and blend them into one alternative plan. This is not it. This is just one of the alternatives to start there, just to kind of keep the remembering. We had some staff turnover, so the project kind of went on a little bit of pause while that was happening. So now that I'm back on it, in this reminder, so what I want to talk about a little bit, you saw in the memo, was a little bit about our stormwater drainage. And then in both of the original alternatives, I guess you can't see my arrow, can you? Oh, yeah, you can. Okay. So right here, you'll see that there was a berming for play, and it was a 4 to 6 foot berm that we talked about putting in there. At the end of 2022, what we learned is that berm would provide some alleviation of the issue, but it wouldn't really correct the problem. We thought, while we're doing this, let's take a pause and look at the other things that are happening. So Upper Goose Creek 2 mile what mitigation plan, we're going to call it BUGT for short, is almost complete. And so they're actually going to the Water Resource Board this month as well with their finalized plan. And so in the same thread, the Alpine Balsam project is looking at what they're doing with their stormwater and what needs to happen for that. And those two plans both tell us some very similar things. So what we also learned about, yeah, like I said, the berm isn't really gonna do everything we were hoping to do. So we're coordinating with 2 different departments, which are all in slightly different tracks, but I think we've actually lined our schedules up that we can work out pretty well. So let me discuss a little bit what that is. So this is just a base map of North Boulder Park. I just wanted to share. So like up here is Delwood, 9th Street is down this side, and the playground area is up here, just to give you reference, right? The shelter, the playground, ball fields, and then Alpine kind of comes in up here. The 2 main water issues that we're talking about are the water that does shoot across the playground at the top. And then at the bottom, we know we have some kind of soggy or wet areas down here as well. What you'll see here is what we think is actually the problem. Is that there is a storm inlet. There's an orange box at the top, which is a storm inlet, and then the storm water pipe actually goes under the playground. So as you guys know, playgrounds usually last 20 to 25 years. So this is a really good opportunity to pair up and fix that stormwater pipe while we can. So that's the one issue. And then the second is Alpine Balsam is going to put in culverts under 9th and then 9th Street. So you'll see that the stormwater pipe from the north will actually feed into that as well. So what will happen at the bottom of your screen there is a box culvert. There'll be a small depression in the park, and then it'll be graded back from there. We're working with the facilities team to have minimal impact on the park and the park user experience. So what you'll see for the most part is this culvert will actually be under 9. You'll see, right, a bit of a sort of plaza that comes out from that, because the Alpine Balsam development will kind of provide an entrance into the park. And then it'll just be kind of regraded down so that it's actually draining into that area. So let's see. I lost my spot here for a sec. Okay, yeah, so we're working with the 2 different departments. So the actual, I'm only showing you a little part of the stormwater drainage overall in the park. As part of the UGT, they realized this is kind of like the beginning of the Upper Goose Creek. And so what they're actually going to do is look at the stormwater throughout the park and work to design and engineer what that looks like. And then we know for the playground area, that'll be phase 1. So we can actually get that under the playground to get the playground moving. We realize that is an urgent need. And then we'll connect that to the Alpine Balsam. And then we still will have an overall stormwater plan that they'll provide. And then we might need to make further improvements in out years from there. So in addition to the stormwater, while we're working on these things, we also are doing the bathroom renovation currently. So as part of the improvements to the shelter, the roof was painted, the gutters are repaired, and then they're renovating the 2 restrooms to be year-round and gender neutral. So what that means. Next steps is first is working with the utility department. So again, they're going to the Water Resources Board tonight as well. They're going to identify funds to design and engineer that full stormwater plan. And then we're going to work with them, hopefully to identify funds and then the timing to construct those improvements. And that's anticipated to start the design and engineering this year and then that funding next year in 2024. Likewise, the facilities department is completing their design so that they can submit a Clomar and a Lomar. That engineering is underway. We're working closely with them on the design. That should be done and submitted by Q2 2023. And then we'll look at that scheduled construction also likely into 2024. So what does that mean now for us in the meantime? Is we're going to complete that renovation on the shelter and the restroom. And then as soon as we get a few answers from when that actual design and engineering can happen for the stormwater, we'll update that timeline for construction. That doesn't mean we're going to stop working on the project. So I'm working this week to get a landscape architect under contract to help us push forward to use that feedback to create that alternate. And then really start going through our design development, construction documents and permitting so that we're all lined up and ready to roll with the other projects with utilities and facilities. And then really coordinating with the Alpine Balsam project as it's ongoing, what that looks like, because it's adjacent to the park. It could have lots of meaning. One other option or opportunity that we have coming up that we're exploring that's not on here because it's in the very early stages is there is a potential to move some of that groundwater from the Alpine Balsam project into some underwater storage tanks that we could put in the park that we would then able to be used for irrigation in the park. So we wouldn't be using potable water if we got anywhere. Pardon me? It would, yeah, so it's basically the groundwater from those buildings, because we know we can't use it all at once when the groundwater is high, is when we need less irrigation. We can put it in storage and we use it for irrigation. That's a good thing, and then it actually is a big cost savings for the Alpine Balsam project. If this all works out, we still have a lot of engineering and discussions to go around with it, but then they won't have to work on water treatment on the property either in the basement or on the parking garages. So hopefully this all works out. It's in the early idea stage. That isn't going to hold up the rest of this. Anything that we do would be in tanks underwater. We'd still have park space above.
Do you have an engineering background?
I do not. Well, not really. Not yes. Yes and no. It's a longer question.
By accident.
Yeah. So any questions on all of that?
I'm just curious, what is the Alpine Balsam project going to be? Is that?
What is it going to be?
Yeah.
In the memo, there's actually a link to the Alpine Balsam project. It's a pretty big undertaking. It has had lots of public engagement around it. So the 2 things that you'll see linked in the memo are that Upper Goose Creek 2-mile plan and then the Alpine Balsam plan. They're both very large plans that have been their multi-year planning processes. I'm happy to answer any questions about those as I can, or we can bring staff in for questions about the projects.
I just know it had been decided yet.
Yeah, that one's been underway for quite a while. That is all I have for you guys. Any other questions? Yes.
Yeah, it's great. Thank you. A couple of questions. One is you have radiant floor heating in the bathroom, and I wonder what the heat source for that warm water will be.
I'm sorry, I cut out a little bit.
So you have radiant floor heating for the bathroom, and
Yes.
I wonder what the heat source for that water will be.
I can look that up. I don't know directly, but I can answer that or at least have it in the memo for the consent agenda next month.
Okay, it's just nicely situated for solar thermal, so it's probably outside of the budget, but it's something I was just curious about. And then secondly, is there a broader plan to sort of revision the park with the development of Alpine Balsam, which is going to put 300 units or whatever of housing directly adjacent to the park? You know, there might need to be some consideration of pathways to the park and where equipment is located, or not equipment, but where amenities are located. I know you're not going to move trees around, right? But just some thought about how people that are going to be moving there, presumably with lots of kids, will access and use the park.
Yeah, that is true. And so we have thought about that. And so what you'll see too, like I think I mentioned in the memo, was it has grown from, let's say, its original scoping. The original scoping was kind of, we're just going to replace the playground and do some minor upgrades. We not realize that with that big development, we need more in that park, right? It needs to do more because it's going to have to serve a lot more. So what you'll see upcoming is, for example, a fitness area. We'll have an expanded nature play. And we're looking at other ways that we can let that park, knowing that it's going to have that growth. The location of it will likely stay where it is, partly because the Alpine Balsam will have a pocket park included in their development. And the other part of that is really how the park is laid out and how the park users like to use the park. And then looking at where low areas are. So we're talking about stormwater. And we know in parks, they're commonly the place that we do want the water to collect and take a little bit of time in high water situations to soak in. So what are the high and low areas in the park? You know, and we don't want to put the expensive playground equipment in low areas that are going to stay soaked. So those are some of the reasons we did look at it. We did consider it.
Okay, I'm thinking more in lines of the Alpine Balsam will have this sort of, I think the current plans are for some sort of open terrace kind of structure that opens toward the park. And so it's a natural access point to the park across 9th Street at that location. And so it's a good opportunity there for some sort of entrance features, you know. I don't know exactly what I have in mind, but something that welcomes people to the park at that location. And potentially even a path connecting on the far south edge of the park, you know, that would connect people through to the street, which is, I guess, 8th Street on the southwest corner of the park.
So as part of the project of putting the culvert in, we are talking about what that entrance looks like to the park from that area. So right, come down Balsam, you know, and it comes to a T and you're in this beautiful space, whether you're walking, biking, or driving, right? And that is part of what we're looking at. And I know the Alpine Balsam project has a budget for art, and we're looking at what we can do as far as functional art to make that really a welcoming space, a small plaza, instead of just maybe a rail. Can it be a decorative rail? That's a conversation that's kind of still in the works, but it is being considered on how that is an entrance. And the other piece of that is we did consider putting in a sidewalk that went to 8th. But if you look at the mapping, a lot of times when we look at parks, you'll have a path that's sort of beaten down naturally because people want to be going there. And a lot of times that'll help us define park alignment. But if you look at 8th, it's actually kind of doesn't connect in. It really just sort of follows up back around the park. So there isn't a lot of desire to go through the park. And then we are also looking at transportation connections. So we always look at the transportation master plan as well, and look at where those connectors are.
It's fair to say as well, isn't it, Tina, I think you mentioned about Alpine Balsam's Garden Plaza area, Pocket Park, and Greenway and Estes, hasn't it? For active use.
For sure. Did that help, Chuck? Did that answer your question? Any other questions? Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
All right, that's it for matters from the department. So on to matters from the board.
I didn't know what this was, the board junction board at liaison.
Sure, we thought sent that to the board and the attachment is in here. You look at attachment A, there's a background description for this item. basically, the city is using the Boulder Junction project as a pilot to, this is your liaison opportunities. This is one we'll be talking about more at the April meeting. And so this is a matter from the board. So we're hoping for you all to facilitate a conversation and select a member to represent the crab on this task force for this joint working, board working group.
So Elliot.
I would like to volunteer to do this. It sounds fascinating and I wanted to do one of these liaison roles since I joined the board. So I think this would be a good, I think I would like it. I'm happy to discuss if somebody else wants to do it instead, but I think this would be fun. So.
It seems to me that it would be a better place to do it when you bring your new members on. Not that they're probably gonna jump at it, but to see the opportunity.
I think the timeline on this did not allow for that. To be clear, this is a opportunity. We intend to bring more at the April meeting. This one is time bound.
I think it's gotta be rich. Jason, Chuck, do you have any interest? Okay,
A little bit if Elliot did it, that'd be great.
okay.
Hey, Elliot.
Yay, Elliot. Do we need to vote, Roger, or you got it? Okay,
So what do I do now?
We'll sign you up and they'll be in touch.
Okay, I'll get an email. All right.
Rosa, you'll follow up with, yeah, great.
All right, we'll move on to crab matters. Any of the board have anything, anywhere they've been, something they experienced, that you want to talk about?
I think we skipped an item, your handbook.
I missed it. On purpose. I'm just kidding. No, I actually missed putting it on my.
No, it's okay.
Back to the handbook.
So I guess I'll start the conversation here. So as you all probably saw, I spent a fair amount of time redoing the handbook. And this is one of those situations where I received very targeted feedback from a lot of you, and I thought about going in and just changing the things that you all thought made sense and that I thought could be changed. And then I realized that I wanted to rewrite it and to incorporate all of your feedback in my rewrite. So I just did that instead. And I provided you with a red line version and a clean version of the redo. And the goal of the rewrite is just to make this a more readable document, to make it more clear on procedures and rules and just it's a chance for us to really figure out what we really find important about our process and to clarify that in our handbook and make sure that we have it's something that is accessible for everybody to revisit every year and that the newbies can come on and take this and not like, I remember when I got the handbook, I was like, oh God, I don't know, this does not look like a fun read. I read through it anyway, but I felt like it could use a little bit more. It could be more readable and accessible, and I was hoping to accomplish that with the redo. So I'm hoping today to get. This is just the first discussion. So what I kind of an analogy would be like when I'm advising school districts when they're changing a policy. And they have to vote on changing a policy or they're drafting a new policy. They have 3 readings of the policy. So they get a draft of the policy, they talk about it in one meeting, and then they go back and they fix it again, and then they bring it back for a second reading and so forth. So I thought I would treat this process like that, where this is our first reading. And we can talk about what the draft looks like, where there are specific areas that you want me to go back and fix or to beef up a little bit, or, we want to just ship this off to the city attorney's office and clean it up, whatever you want to do. But this is just our first chance of several, I think, to talk about this and make sure that it's on the right path. So with that, I will open it up to the group to discuss. And I've got some notes here that I will take.
I mean, I have a question. Did you hear from most everybody?
Yeah.
Are we done?
Yeah, but I mean, on the first round, I mean, I'm happy to incorporate further feedback, but yeah. Always. Chuck?
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you very, very much for taking this on and making these very significant improvements to the document. You've done a fantastic job of taking at least my input and including it. So I want to thank you for, it's a lot of hours of work you put in. Thanks very much. I really like the content. I don't have a lot of changes to suggest. I think there's a section of it in part A where it tends to be a little bit into the legalese, like you're using item and things like that, which I know has a place in legal writing, but I don't think this is a legal document. And so that may be a little intimidating to people who don't know what it means.
Chuck, can you be specific about like which part? Are you talking about like when I'm describing or we are describing the statutes that apply?
Yeah, so
The laws?
so the first section, section A, crab's creation and function, and you have part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4.
Yeah.
And you're quoting the relevant code. I think that once you quoted it, you don't need to put item after every sentence. You know that this is referring to the previous code. And once you said read this code, I think people will know to read the code.
Yep.
So it makes it sound like a legal document to me, not being a lawyer. So I'm sure you're used to that type of style of writing, being a lawyer, but
Yeah.
I'm not. It's a little maybe not everyone would find that accessible, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But really, that's really my only minor nit to pick. I think you've done a great job. There's some typos in there that we can clean up later, but it's a fabulous job. So thank you.
Thanks. It's good feedback. Appreciate it.
Did you strike the entire index?
Table of contents?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna redo that.
Okay.
So when it's finalized, we'll put a new one in, but the existing one was no longer relevant.
I guess the one little thing that I thought was kind of neat was it started in what, 1961? It'd be fun to see that on the front page. It says adopted February 2008, amended 2023. Just to show that the historical
No, it's good.
relevance. Like the font. I really felt like it was spooky.
Yeah.
It was very odd to read.
Yeah.
Someone kind of drinking when they did the indents, so it's
Yes.
much tighter and
Cleaner.
professional, modern,
Thank you.
friendlier. Yeah, inviting.
Do we know how to, Ally, this is a question for you. With the city attorney's office, can you make a connection with me and then I can ask them for the materials that they can provide, like that memo? Okay, great.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And Elliot, where do you need me in this?
So,
Just so we're not stepping on each other.
yeah. So I think the best, I think your skills will be really helpful if, after this, if people want to write to me, or to you, be better, like with proposed changes to this, that they think of after the meeting, or that they want to put into writing. They can send it to you and to me, and then you can compile that and make sure that when I'm looking back at it, that I can come to you and say, hey, let's compile all of the feedback.
I can't remember. I think you had a phrase in there. This handbook shall be revisited every 10 years or something.
I think, yeah, I think actually I put it in for 3 or 5 years. Yeah. And I actually, so one idea that I had was, so there's going to be a letter at the beginning that's basically a welcome to PRAB members. And I can't decide whether it should come from the current chair or just all members of the PRAB. But if it comes from the current chair, it would be a forcing mechanism for us to revisit it every year, because then the chair will likely switch over, or every 2 years if there's a 2-year chair. And then that would be an opportunity for the chair and other members to like look at this and just revisit the content in addition to the letter changing. So, but I think that this should be revisited every 3 to 5 years at the most.
Why?
Because it just gets stale. And there may be processing, I mean, who would have known like 3 years ago that the pandemic is going to change like the manner in which we present meetings? And so none of that is reflected in this. If we had redone this in 2018, it would have been out of date by now. So who knows what happens in 5 years?
Nothing is.
Nothing happens right yet. So, and that's typically when I advise public bodies I'm representing to revisit their policies too. It's like, every 5 years is a good time to, or when there's a switch over in the makeup of the body. Typically is every 3 to 5 years, there's a significant turnover. So it's a good time to look at your process. And there may be something in this handbook that doesn't work anymore. It's like, oh, wait, we said this in the handbook. We want to do it this way, but it's a little bit cumbersome, or we don't like that process. So let's get rid of it.
I think Jason had asked, do we have a secretary as a secretary of the board?
We do. So the secretary of the board is actually, by the code, supposed to be the city manager or the designee of the city manager. And I think the designee is Ally and Rose. So yeah, so that's technically who the secretary is. The secretary doesn't need to be, and in fact is often not a member of the board. Chuck?
I just got interrupted and forgot what I was going to say. Something extremely pithy and important, obviously.
Well, if you think of it, you can follow up with me separately, or you can email me and Rosa with your thought, or you can interrupt the next part of the meeting and we can go back to it.
Okay. I think I was going to suggest that Rosa or you include line numbers on your next version so that we can make comments on specific lines, especially for typos and things. It's a lot easier to identify them that way.
And for future rewrites. You propose the second reading?
I would say the next reading should probably be at the next meeting. I don't think we need to, not the study session, but the next full meeting, the first meeting for the newbies. And that way they can look at the handbook beforehand, and as a first order of business for them, it's like, hey, is there anything you would want to see in this? Like,
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
yeah, like, is this welcoming to, yeah, exactly. So, or yeah, this doesn't make sense, or I'd like to know more about this process. So I think that'd be
great.
That'd be good.
And the
So
purpose of that. Go ahead, Chuck.
Oh, I did remember it was the inclusion of links, I think, is a good modernization of this, especially if it's available online so that people can just click to follow the links to the various places. And I know you're doing that with the charter and things like that, but I would encourage that.
Great, thank you. What were you gonna say?
The purpose or your rationale for the chair versus the board versus kind of more of a generic letter, welcome letter that I originally wrote.
Yeah, the welcome letter, who it comes from is less important to me than what it says. I think that the letter should kind of define who the PRAB is and kind of the scope of our work a little bit, and also be a welcoming, like, hey, we're glad to have you be a part of this work. If it comes from the chair or the whole PRAB or some subset, isn't as important to me. And I would leave that open to the board just to make that decision. I put it in here as coming from the current chair, but that was just as a placeholder.
I like it coming from the chair because we don't get to do much. I just like, we don't, like the role we get to call the meeting and during the meeting, I think it's kind of cool that we get to do.
Yeah, kind of your legacy.
Yeah. We get to have a handbook 1 year. But that's just my vote.
Food I'm glad to consider is that the new board members Like, so for example, right now, right, we have two new board members. We'd be in theory sending them the handbook as a welcome to the PRAB. I'm not sure. I would hope, right, that it's part of the procedure that someone sends it in advance of their first meeting. The current chair, Pam, will never work with them on the board. And so there's a weird timing glitch in that if it's coming from the chair, do you have to wait till April and there's a new chair and then their handbook lists for a month?
Right.
So it's something to think about.
But there's something different there because just because they're not on my board, I still care about them. I want the best for them. I mean, in my little, I have all the chairs that I've worked with. I have really been enamored with all my chairs. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like just because I don't know them, doesn't, I would still like the opportunity, but for the next person, I think Chuck would like the opportunity when he gets off. That's all.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point.
And
That's
I
very,
guess,
very presumptive. We haven't had
Oh.
elections for a new chair.
Oh, sorry, I just assumed.
I think because especially the old document is so formal. That when I wrote the letter, it was more friendly, like, hey, not informal, but not as strict. And I think when the only touch you've had is with the, city attorney's office about your oath and stuff. It's kind of spooky at first, if it's your first time doing something like this, so. I vote for, yeah, sure, you can. What you want, for example, but just a little more upbeat, friendly,
Yeah, the tone should be inviting
yeah,
and friendly. I completely agree.
okay, not so formal.
Yeah, totally agree. Any other points people want to make or feedback they want to provide? Okay.
Well done.
Speak now or
Nice
forever hold your
job.
peace.
Thank you.
Thank you
Until-
very much.
Yeah, of course, yeah. So Ally she has fun with budgets. I had fun with this, so that just shows you how demented my mind works. Yeah,
But we're both in the right shop.
yes.
That matters. Right? We can move on to Prep Matters. Sorry about that. So anybody'd like to talk about if something they've seen, been to, something of interest, something they're concerned about? And they want to bring up to Ally and the board.
I do. I had a really great meeting with the members of the CU crew, the Colorado crew team, or a couple of members about their fees for using the reservoir. And I talked to Ally about it, and I just want to say that I thought that the group that I met with was incredibly impressive. They're very passionate about what they are doing and feel very strongly about what they were speaking to me about, but they did so very respectfully. And it was a really great opportunity to engage with members of the community. And I would encourage everybody to do that. If you get, and I've offered to meet with the folks out at the res a few times, and we haven't been able to schedule something yet, but I'm still open for that. I think that's one of the best parts of the job is, actually going and meeting people. And now that we're kind of in this post-pandemic-ish era where we can go meet people again, I just think I would just encourage others to do it. And I really enjoyed that opportunity. And it was a really important thing too, because, we're here to represent the community in a way. And it was good to get out and talk to folks in the community.
What else? Doug, Jason?
Chuck sent it out that he's instantly.
From? Right?
Not really, but one thing that I realize, I have like 3 parks right near my house. And do we make any money at all from people renting the parks? For aerobics or Tai Chi or a little craft fair?
Yes, but very, very small dollar amounts. We have a commercial use program that's been in the pilot phase for 10-ish years now. It's based on the average number of attendees that's self-reported over the course of a quarter. So that is included as one of the policies. Commercial use and access was one of the listed categories, so that will be updated as part of the fee policy.
The next matter is crab recruitment, orientation, and sleeping. Todd. You want, I mean,
Sure, this is a matter from the board. This is where you would talk about that you have 2 new members. And I think as part of your orientation, you assign mentors. So you might want to start there. And then I see Chuck has his hand up, so maybe as the vice chair, he's offering to facilitate this item.
That would be lovely. Unfortunately, my work is interfering. So our research plane just landed and I have to go access my instruments and get them off before they shut down for the day. So I just wanted to, if you don't mind my interjecting for a minute, is that okay, Madam Chair?
sure.
I wanted to just say goodbye to Mary and Pam because I'm not going to be here for the next 15, 20 minutes. And I wanted to thank you both for being such great co-members on the board. And I'm going to miss having you on the board and your great insight and Mary's wonderful viewpoints and different perspectives she brings to the board, especially for representing some of the older residents of Boulder. And Pam, your expertise and professionalism, given your career. It's been so great serving with you. I'm going to miss you a lot.
I miss you too.
And I hope we keep in touch. And I know we will. So thank you
Good luck
both.
with your project.
Thank you, Chuck.
We'll see you.
Thank you. I'm so sorry to have to run out like this.
Someone's got to save the world.
James Bond.
He was
Jones.
at the airport at the hangar one time when we were having agenda setting, got a tour of the Gulf Stream that is for the plane, like someone's got to save the world, Chuck. We're glad you're doing it. Thank you.
Bye, Chuck.
All right.
Since,
Bye. Bye, Mary. Bye, Pam.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
yeah. So let's do this. So here's, let's pause for a moment and talk about welcoming our 2 new board members. So we have Anna Seeger and Andrew. And as we send them items, we will send the PRAB handbook, and some of that can be a process improvement. If you all want to talk about mentorship, we can also facilitate those connections, and then we can resume the appreciation.
All right, so in terms of mentors, I'll just kind of, I'll start off. I'm happy to mentor one of them. Whoever, I don't want to pick because I feel like I want to seem like I'm favoring one or the other. So I'm happy to be randomly assigned one of them to mentor. Be a way to pay forward Jason's amazing mentorship of me.
Aw.
Yeah, I didn't raise my hand. I don't have a plane coming in with instruments. They're just 3 kids hovering around traveling. But I also am happy to continue. Thanks, Elliot, for the compliment. And I'm happy to mentor unless Sunny or Anita would like to do that. But happy to put my name in if no one else wants to.
Since there's only 2, I'm happy to wait another year.
All right. Jason and Elliot will set you up and sign you up. Anything else, I guess, board members that you want us to make sure? I know we have your onboarding materials that you all were just talking about. Anything else that we should be thinking of as we're about to onboard 2 members?
Yeah, so would it be possible to provide them with the draft of the new handbook in addition to the old handbook? So we're going to provide them with the handbook, but I'm assuming it's the existing handbook, not the one that we're fixing.
What we could do is link to this month's packet and share that the board is considering updating and in the process of revising the handbook. That way they get the full context of the conversation and note that it's not yet been reviewed by city attorneys, even though Elliot is an attorney, right? And so just they'll get the whole context of it. So we could do that.
Yep. I would support that.
Was going to add, Sunny, I still need your bio. Yep, and Anita. I'm saying it out loud because I'm gonna put it in.
Because that's part of the welcome materials. That's right.
I'll just write your bio.
Mary, that's for your legacy too. Look at this. I just forgot about that.
I think these letters should be bigger. And I think you guys should have one too. So like twice as easy.
So those were just for today.
The permanent, remember the old days where we had permanent ones?
Oh, yeah.
They're coming back.
Nice.
Those are nice. That feels really.
But I think it's a really good idea. I mean, having these placards,
For sure.
paper placards for you all, would be really helpful.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, well, so next time there will be the permanent ones that have like the big last name and.
Yeah, that's nice.
And maybe we could even, I don't know if you, what it would take to finesse it. So that each, like Brian Berry, that his actual role online for people who are hybriding. So if someone's speaking, we can all refer, we're here or watching or whatever. See who does what. Also the t-shirt or ball cap.
Yep.
I got here, it took 2 years to get one and kind of. I wanted a cap, but all there was t-shirt. But you know, it's just kind of nice to have that when you get here.
Yeah. EPR swag. I don't have the, I want the best. I want the best. If I can wear with my like button down shirts, I like that. Yeah, I want the best.
Any other comments about onboarding before we shift gears?
So remind me, their first meeting, like the,
The study session in 2 weeks.
they're gonna come to the study session? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we're coordinating. They'll be invited.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we don't need a quorum for that, correct? Okay. Well, it is a meeting.
It is a meeting.
Right, we're just not taking any action. Okay, but we have to have a quorum. Okay,
They were just appointed Thursday night, so
Right.
all of this is.
So they're like, yeah, and I'm trying to think of like what they would need. on-
So we typically offer them a few one-on-ones, one with myself. It's just broad department. It's very similar in a way to what we do to welcome people who are teammates. Also a budget 101, but they would get that. It's as part of the study session. So
Okay, so you're gonna, like you did with us, you're gonna be one-on-one. Already one-on-one,
offer it, yeah.
and then we've got the mentors. And hopefully between those two things plus the packet, they will be sufficiently alerted to what they're diving into. Or have an opportunity to ask questions.
Yeah. And I think the biggest thing is like a 3-4 month check-in, right? Because you don't know what you don't know until
Right.
you've had a few meetings like.
Yeah. And that'd be up mostly to the mentors, I would presume.
I enjoyed the hiking. I love that. Nobody did that with me, but I love it with you. Just.
Yeah, the exercise, getting out and being, you know, like getting exercise as part of the onboarding should be like,
Yeah.
if you're able, of course,
Yeah.
should be part of the. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
Well, there was a chair 6 years ago and her name was Kelly White. Remember Kelly? And she taught me walk and talk. She's like, we don't walk and eat, we don't talk and eat, we walk and talk. You want a meeting with me? We walk. So I was like, that's how she kept speaking.
All right. Well, with that, and if you think of anything, obviously, we're not going anywhere. If it's okay, I'll start with the appreciation, because we do have a gift from the department and appreciation for your volunteerism. Really, I think people forget that serving as a board member is an act of volunteerism, and it's a way that you monthly for 5 years have gotten to shape the community that you live in, which is pretty special. I hope you both have a list of the projects that you got to influence. And just know that we're really grateful. I always tell people when they ask what it is to be a board member, that the board's best board members ask us really hard questions. and do it with kindness, knowing that you've got a bunch of public servants around the table who care deeply and work very hard. And you both have done that really, really well for 5 years and 3 of them being the hardest years that this department maybe has ever had. And you've made our work better. You've helped us provide services and we're really grateful. So thank you for giving us your Monday evenings, sometimes twice a month, sometimes more. We really appreciate you and your service. And so on behalf of our team, just know that we're very grateful. We hope to see you in the park or in the rec centers, maybe teaching, maybe doing something with the department, maybe with a red buoy around your waistband.
Yes, yes.
So thank you both for your service. We're very grateful. Sure.
They definitely same difference. Thank you. I'm gonna put it in my office tomorrow. Oh,
That's
beautiful.
yeah, thank you. And I love that you used Art Source.
We love them.
I love them too. They did my whole house. Thank you. I love that. That's a great piece of ticket.
I grabbed it from our art director.
It's wonderful. Thank you. I love it. In my house, if I stand on the bed, you can see that. From the top windows, but I like to walk up and down 4th Street because the Flatirons change every day. You know, they change every day. I love it. So this is meaningful. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Yeah. Let me see what you got.
This is not upstage.
I'm sorry. I done your first one.
My dad always made us for Christmas, everybody, when we get to the time, I go ripping into. That's over in 5 minutes and he's going.
That's how Trevor's family does it, and I love it.
Thanks.
Really nice. That's beautiful. Great flowers.
Thank
You
you.
have to connect it. I love it. This is a different time of day.
It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Lovely.
Yay.
If any member of the board had anything you wanted to add,
I just want to say, I've had such a fun time on this board, in large part because of you. two. I mean, this has been so fun. You guys are such good community servants and leaders. You're so smart, you're so thoughtful. And when I came on as a newbie 2 years ago, you both were immediately, what can we do to help you? Can we answer any questions? You've been so kind and you've been very patient with me as I've learned basic concepts. And I really hope we can stay in touch. And I've really enjoyed our talks outside of, the board setting and our walks and really hope we can stay in
You owe me
touch.
one.
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to stay in this
Yes.
country.
I know.
and the city. Although I will come to Italy and I will certainly take a walk with you there. Really? Thank you both. You
Sure.
really set an amazing example.
Sure.
Both of you have. So thanks so much.
Yeah, I also want to say thank you because you guys both welcomed me in a nice long hike and great conversation and you feel welcome and gave me some direction and a great example of how to make your voice heard on this board. So thank you.
Yeah,
It's you.
appreciate it. Miss you guys too.
We started the welcome letter together. And then
We started together.
we started the same, yeah.
Interviewed on the same day, yeah.
Same day. And started the mentoring, reintroducing that. I think I felt pretty lost for the first 18 months. I'm really sure, like, what do we do? Kind of hurry up and wait and figure it out. So I think, legacy is kind of a big word. That was one of the little drops that I put in the hat. I thought of a couple of themes, wrote a few pages, but I won't say them all, but I think, one of my big stand-ups is a couple of things, just not forgetting the middle class. I've always been a voice for, obviously we want to support impoverished people. who have no opportunities, but you know, the middle class is kind of supporting the community and just making sure that there's opportunities for the kids of teachers, firemen, you know, mechanics, things like that in this city, not just for folks who have absolutely nothing. And I guess on that same vein, I'm very much a supporter of a hand up, but not real constant flowing handouts all the time. It just is more respectful of someone's integrity and their ability to, you know, build themselves, to create opportunities for them to give back and to be self-sufficient. Those are two of my big things. Growth must pay their way. That was on my list. And I did a bunch of things that I appreciate. I mean, I've loved Beehive and youth involvement, the couple times that kids came, and God, that was super awesome to me. I hope that continues. I love that the department takes care of what we have, and it seemed like that, not a transition, but that really came about in my 5 years. We were kind of building big in the pandemic. And so you guys turned on a dime, shifted that to that philosophy. The financial sustainability, I love that you're willing to pull back when it's needed and not just push forward. I love the equity and inclusion training. I don't know if you guys have had an opportunity to do that yet. I think there should be more trainings of all kinds. I mean, you want to build your, you know, board members tend to be kind of go-getter type of people. And yet there's opportunities to feed the board, not with a lot of money, but maybe even trainings that y'all get on a city level, that you could have a big one. Maybe we could do, you know, one a year where all board members, so we can have some of that unsiloing. One of my favorite experiences was September of 2018. It was OSMP Environmental Transportation Board and Planning and Sustainability.
That was Tina.
Yeah, and that was awesome to get everyone together talking. And I think that you're not recreating the wheel when there's a lot of crosstalk between boards. You guys have interdepartmental, and we, unless I call up, I did probably 3 or 4 people over the 5 years. I'd call and say, hey, how do you guys do this or that? But it might behoove every department to have a little bit more of that. And the focus on environmentalism and climate change initiatives, that's one of my top 3 things that I'm interested in. I'm really psyched that Chuck is, you know, carrying the torch on that very much. I think Prab could interface with the volunteers a little more. And I didn't really get to, you know, interact with particularly Parks and Rec volunteers. I don't know who they are, but that would be kind of a fun way to help us to serve the city. And I think that decision-making after my 5 years, there still feels like there is a level of decision-making that happens before anything gets put out on the table. And, you know, I would just like to see one of my things I looked at, Area 3 up in northeast Boulder. We're 10 years, I'm hearing, 8 to 10 years from developing that. You know, and I'd like to see involvement from more of a grassroots level. You know, my thoughts that are things going on in the city that they're not telling the board members, and then a shiny, like the gorgeous presentation today on North Boulder Park. But I think that there's enough really driven people on boards and commissions as well as citizens who would enjoy, would appreciate, and step up to get involved at even an earlier stage. And I feel that there's so much that has to happen at these meetings. And I still would like to see the Prab members addressing the direction a little bit more. You guys do incredible, shiny, top level, you know, Ivy League university presentations, and it feels, and maybe I just still haven't gotten over it 5 years later, but that the board members is more of a listening and maybe not rubber stamping, because we do ask provocative questions, but a little more involvement. You know, in how things roll out in the department. Having done the master plan, it feels like y'all potentially will be coasting a little bit of a breather. Maybe, no, briefly, Brown. No coasting. But, and then that Crab is invited, we have updated all the activities. For example, honestly, Pam and I chatted and there was a cold plunge. I would have to do that polar plunge. I suppose I could have looked and said, what can I do? I'm gonna do that. But maybe just remembering that we're here because we want to be involved. And it was last Saturday, I think, the polar plunge, and they made what, $16,000. You know, I definitely would have donated, but just remembering that we really want to be involved with the chili cook-off was great, and volunteered for the tree giveaway. And the Play Foundation, Pamela hasn't said much about that, but she's been active in that.
It's on my list.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, this is something I just learned. I'll close with this. So I'm studying psychiatry in graduate school. And there's a big push in the mental health field right now to just have that courageous conversation about what, we want to have compassion for one another. And there is a tendency, I think, in our society, just to be quite frank, of this fragility, like walking on eggshells and treating people with, I think, an excessive amount of deference that isn't really necessary to survive as the species together. So the courageous conversations that I learned 20 years ago in one of my jobs, I think it just needs to be kept alive and make sure that both ways, we don't want to attack the city and that the city doesn't feel wounded, you know, lick at the wounds if some pretty, you know, straightforward feedback that comes your way. So just to plant that little seed that it can be fun, and we can be competing, you know, spouses and play tennis and then go out for lunch. It doesn't have to be confrontational, but I think upping the level of courageous conversations is something that I would love to see, you know, as on my departure, even though I love to be involved in that. Anyway, thank you for listening. Pamela.
Well, I just wanted to, this is my first time being on a commission. I manage 3 commissions. I manage a Veterans Commission, a Parks and Rec Commission, and an Arts and Culture Commission. So I'm commissioned out. Like, I do a lot of commissioning. But I wanted to tell you, Ally, that I am one of you. Like, tomorrow, I'm back to being me again. So I'm excited about being a civil servant, because it's hard on this side. I feel like I've had to keep quiet sometimes because because I am one of you. I'm a public servant and I'm in your profession. So I am so grateful. I remember so many things. Ally, one of the things that I loved is I remember when you got promoted. Like, I remember Yvette. I remember Margot, and you know, just I remember the beginning 5 years ago. It feels like the beginning to me because you were still deputy, you know, and there's been so much. And then Jeff Haley left, you know, he moved on and Charlotte moved on. And so I have Maura. Is she still with us?
She is now working with a gal none of you have met. Her name is Amanda Beavis. She was a business consultant.
Okay.
She's now started a project management company.
Oh,
And
nice.
helping her.
That's nice. But I just want, like, Regina, Brian, Megan, Stephanie, Jackson, Christy, Charlotte, Jeff, Margot, Stacy, I have Jackson twice, and I missed your name.
Oh.
Mark, thank you. And you too. I mean, it's nice to have you here. I'm really so grateful for everything that you've brought to the team, and, you know, just everything you've developed. I have your org chart on my vision board. I do, I seriously do, because I aspire to have a bigger org chart and more management, because it's just me and 8 supervisors, so I don't have the buffer. But the things that I'm really proud of, I wanted to also tell Chuck something and thank him, because I've met friends here. I have friends here. My board members, I feel like we're friends, and
There was Thomas and Jennifer and Tyler and Raj and Valerie and Ally and Tara. They're all my friends too. They're the ones before. That's why I said I really will care about the ones in the future because these folks have cared about me too. But during COVID, Play Boulder really suffered. And it was really important to me that it didn't sink and it was at a point where it was going to tank. And Yvette really worked hard to bring it to fruition, to be a funding, how would you call it? A funding partner? Philanthropic partner for the department. And part of my background is nonprofit, charitable, doing philanthropic work and also creating nonprofits and grant writing, and it was killing me. So I feel like I stepped up and I saved it for about 3 months and I handed it back over. And I'm really proud of that. I'm really proud of that. I'm proud of Scott Carpenter Pool, all you did for that. Every time I drive by, I didn't have a hand in it, but I feel like it was during our time. And I feel very proud of us that we stood beside you during the reservoir stress that happened with the concessionaire. I just feel like we had your guys' back for that. And I'm trying to think, I want to thank Aaron Brockett for having faith in me and Bob Yates for having faith in me and Tara. And what else I wanted to say? I just want to make sure. I thank all the staff for sure. Oh my goodness, I was telling Tina outside that I'm so excited now because I've saved all your PowerPoints. I've saved everything that you've all ever done because you guys are, like you said, over the top, NRPA, gold star, gold medal, everything. And I can't wait to even implement one of the things that you've taught me here in my own agency. It's been an honor. Thank you.
Thank you both. Very grateful.
I'm grateful. Thank you. I guess that's it. We can adjourn now. I have Tina's pen.
Looks like Jason
Oh,
maybe.
Jason, sorry, Jason.
Hey, no, I'm sorry. I really don't want to have the last word after these.
No, please do, please.
To comments, but first of all, I wanted to apologize for not being there in person. This was a long scheduled trip, but I was really sad to see that it kind of was on the same day as both of your last days. But I want to thank you both, Mary, for being a great mentor. Even before I was on the board, we met for a great walk and talk, and I hope we can do that again soon. And Pam, just for your, and also Mary, your passion and your enthusiasm, your advocacy for a lot of issues that I think have become front and center thanks to you. And so thank you for that. And Pam, thanks for your enthusiasm and your leadership. And so everything that everyone else has said, I want to echo that. But again, I hate to be the last word after those two great comments, but I wanted to add my thanks as well for your service and the time together. And hopefully I very much look forward to staying in touch. Pam, for pizza, we already scheduled a time.
Yes.
And Mary,
Yes.
for a walk soon. And I will join Ellie in Italy. I'm happy to do a meet there too. So
You're all welcome anytime.
yeah, so thank you. I'm sorry I didn't get to weigh in earlier, but sorry I couldn't be there either. But thanks to you both very much.
But I'll see you soon.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, Jason. Enjoy your babies.
Yeah. Okay, and with that, the meeting is adjourned.
Thank you all.